Much for joining me. Warm greetings from East Tennessee, the Vault XL. Let's get right down to business. I'm going to bring you an update pertaining to MEIJA. On Facebook, her name also is Melina. If you go into the search engine, it'll be DENISHKA Melina. But they have her as MEIJA. I think they're both her names. WATE News is the source. This is an update pertaining to the story. Thank you so much. And then we will discuss O.J. Simpson.
Murder, a handful of suspects have now been charged.
We brought you this news live at 4 o'clock today as Knoxville police made the announcement, and since then, we've been busy digging into the indictments that were filed this morning.
WAT 6 News Side reporter Molly O'Brien joins us now live from the Knoxville Public Safety Complex. So, Molly, this is quite a breakthrough for investigators.
That's right, Bo. A significant breakthrough in the murder of DENISHKA MEIJA. We know the 22-year-old was found dead inside a home on Friday morning. Now, 4 people have been indicted in connection to her death. Edward Wilson, Marquise Ellis, Angela Greenberg, and Ladwin Osborne all charged in connection to the case. We know officers responded to a call of the shooting on Gilbert Lane on Friday morning. They found 2 people had been shot inside a home. Their injuries were considered not life-threatening. MEIJA was also found dead inside the home. KPD telling us today they don't believe her cause of death was from a gunshot wound. Now, prior to the indictment of murder, Osborne, one of the 4 suspects, had been charged with rape. KPD telling us MEIJA reported on April 4th, a day before her death, that she was a victim of sexual assault and says Osborne was the suspect. He was arrested on April 5th and charged with rape after showing up to the hospital with a gunshot wound. KPD telling us they connected him to that shooting on Gilbert Lane. Now, KPD Chief Paul Noel detailing the complexity of this case today. Take a listen.
So proud of their work. I'm so grateful for the department-wide collaboration, the collaboration across the criminal justice system with the singular mission of getting justice for this murder victim. Today is a step in that direction, a big step. This investigation is still very much ongoing, but we believe we have identified and charged the individuals most directly responsible for her death.
So we know the 4 suspects are in custody at this time. Now, Osborne, Ellis, and Wilson are indicted on a slew of charges, including first-degree murder. Greenberg, who is Osborne's mother, has been indicted for tampering with evidence and accessory after the fact. Again, police say this case is complex and the investigation is ongoing at this time. Reporting live in Knoxville, Molly O'Brien, WATE 6 on your side.
All right, everybody. WATE News is the source. So we have a 22-year-old female who filed a report against LaTwan Osborne for rape. The next day, she was found deceased in a home with 2 others who were shot. They're not revealing her manner of death. Why, I do not know. But as you hear in this commentary, they're stating that her death was not from a gunshot wounds. So how did she die? LaTwan goes to the hospital with also a gunshot wound. So who shot him? Later, he is arrested for her rape. Very tricky story. She's dead. They won't reveal how she died. 2 other people shot, non-life-threatening. He's also shot, goes to the hospital, later arrested for her rape. So who shot whom? Who shot him? And did he shoot the other 2 people? It's a guy and a girl. They're 23 years of age. They are alive. Now we have arrest of 3 more people. 2 other young Black men and the mother of LaTwan Osborne. She's arrested for tampering with evidence and after the fact of the crime. So exactly what did she do? Help buy burner phones, this and that. What happened? Cover up clothes, what? Show you the pictures of these heathens. DENISHKA MEIJA. And also she goes by the name Melina as well. Thank you all so much for joining me. this information out here to you. Osborne is the first guy with the bald head, and these are the other suspects. Ellis, he's the youngest one, and then William Edward. I believe he's 31, 30-something years of age. All right. Now, 1 second. That's the mother of LaTwan Osborne. She's also been arrested for, after the fact, aiding inside of this commentary. Hello from Russia. And now you're gone. There you have it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. 4 people now arrested for the murder of this young lady. What happened? Did he go there to deliberately try to keep her quiet? Did she tell him she was going to file a report of rape? Because the rape took place at a home on Walker Street, which is in West Knoxville, the lower end of West Knoxville. And then the crime of the shooting and her death took place in South Knoxville, which is across the bridge from downtown Knoxville. What happened at that house where she lived? Was this her home, parents' home, friend's home, renting with other people, own the house? Don't know all the details, but when you do the Google search, it will be clouded over because Google now puts a cloud over any crime scene, home, apartment building that's been involved in a murder. And I noticed that with the Idaho 4 killings, that thereafter, so many people searching and showing the house and where those young people died, Google now puts a cloud over the residence of a murder scene. So when you go to the search, there will be a cloud over the location of the house where she was found dead. So what happened to DENISHKA? Was she beat, battered, suffocated? Is it drug-related, drug overdose? What happened to her? They will not say, and I'm curious to why not. You say you found her dead. What happened? I'm assuming the 2 other people in the house who were shot identified Osborne as the shooter. Now we have the other 2 males involved for murder as well, and other charges, kidnapping, burglary. Yes, burglary. So now you got to ask yourselves, did they bum rush this house, bust in the door, looking for her, to hurt her, to silence her? Was she beat to death? Because the fact that they're saying it doesn't appear that she was shot, then how did she die? And why were these other 2 people shot? Did they torture her? There's something sinister here going on. Also, Mr. Osborne was linked to another dead woman in July of 2022, as I've brought you commentary about this story. Japhasha Mitchell, who is no longer alive. She's a Black female. DENISHKA, I don't know if she's Spanish or of Spanish descent, but she's not African-American. Okay? So we have DENISHKA deceased, 2024. Japhasha Mitchell, 2022, she's African-American. He was linked to her homicide, Mr. Osborne. He was a person of interest. Police were following him, obviously investigating possibly the crime of Japhasha. And he goes on a hightail speed chase on the interstate, goes into Western Heights, barricades himself inside of somebody's apartment. Don't know whose apartment that was. Did he know them? Friends, family? Don't know. And we don't hear anything else after that. He finally comes out of the apartment. We don't hear of an arrest of murder, tampering with evidence, anything pertaining to the death of Japhasha Mitchell. And I do believe Japhasha had children as well. Were they dating? Were they friends? Altercation? Drug-related? What happened there? Why were you, Mr. Osborne, subject of investigation in that murder? Japhasha was found inside of a car, shot to death in East Knoxville, in an alley. People were investigated as far as giving, information. So we have not heard of any arrest in that case. Now, as I said, fast forward almost 2 years later, he's linked to a rape, and then the victim just mysteriously is dead the next day. And then 2 other people have been arrested for kidnapping, burglary, which I'm assuming is all those people in that house, DENISHKA and the other 2 victims, and then his mother aids him after the fact. Let's get her name. Angela Greenberg. How nice. All suspects, LaTwan Osborne, Marquise Ellis, Edward Wilson. Excuse me, I had said Williams before. Sorry about that. Osborne and the three individuals were indicted in connection in her death on Wednesday. Okay, this crime took place. These arrests took place. I believe it was last Friday, because this is a week-old story. She was found dead on Gilbert Lane, April 5th, DENISHKA. Very diabolical story. Osborne is 39 years of age. Edward Wilson is 31. Marquise Ellis is 20. They've been indicted on numerous charges, including first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, especially aggravated kidnapping and aggravated burglary. The indictment also reveals the state plans to seek enhanced punishments against the men. What does that mean exactly? Once again, LaTwan Osborne, Marquise Ellis, and Edward Wilson, and also Mr. Osborne's mother have been indicted on these said charges. And she is 59 years of age. Well, you're a great role model for your children, for your son. And I won't doubt that he is involved in the murder of Japhasha Mitchell. And once again, I'd like to send my condolences to DENISHKA's family and also to Japhasha's Mitchell's family as well. Let me get a little information about her funeral arrangements, because I do believe they've had services for her. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much. Woo! Not a great viewing today, but it is what it is. This was uploaded 19 hours ago. WBIR is the source. One second, everybody. Waiting for everything to load up. Oh, Lordy, Lordy, Lordy. Slow running today. Slow running, slow running. Sorry about yesterday. Power went out last night before I could go live. So it was okay. Okay.
Fox 43 News at 10 o'clock. I'm John Becker. New details tonight. Friends and loved ones are remembering the life of a 22-year-old woman that police say was murdered. Her name, DENISHKA Melina Sabiha MEIJA. Police found that young woman dead last Friday at a home in South Knoxville. 4 people now face charges for their role in her killing. One day before she died, the investigators say the victim reported to police she had been raped by a man now in jail for her murder. Fox 43 News reporter Maria Guzman attended that memorial tonight and joins us with more on that victim and the tribute tonight. Maria?
Yes, John, friends of DENISHKA did not want to be on camera tonight for safety concerns, but they shared with me the short yet vibrant life that she lived. They described her as a selfless and someone who loved hard. Now, loved ones of DENISHKA honor her life through messages and a balloon release. Friends say DENISHKA was her parents' only daughter. I spoke to a cousin of her who says DENISHKA is originally from Costa Rica, but resided in Knoxville with her immediate family. They said she had her heart in both countries. Her cousin said she completed her education in her homeland and had plans to go back to Costa Rica. That's where she wanted to be in the long run. Investigators say they won't stop to bring justice for DENISHKA.
I want to extend my deepest condolences to DENISHKA's family. We will continue to support her family to the best of our ability in the difficult days, weeks, months, and years ahead.
Now, her family says she spent a large portion of her life here in East Tennessee. Now, she attended Carter High School, where she played volleyball and sported the number 20. She also was a dancer at a local dance studio, and she was the daughter of friends and a godmother. Now, details of her memorial is still not clear. Her immediate family will be having one here in Knoxville, as well as for her family abroad. John.
Maria Guzman with the very latest.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. So, DENISHKA lives here from Costa Rica. Don't know what age she migrated here to the United States, but she is her parents' only child. Once again, my condolences to the family. I would love to reach out to them, but I understand, they may not want to show themselves on camera due to this complex situation of having multiple people involved in the crime against she and the other two victims. And you have to ask the obvious questions. Osborne, what else have you been into? Because I see that you have a criminal record in Hamilton County. You had felonies. You have felonies in the state of Georgia. Don't know what happened in Hamilton County. Don't know all the charges in the state of Georgia, but it said multiple felonies. Multiple or several in state of Georgia. So he's been a busy bee. He claims himself as a gangster disciple, gang member. Don't know if he was active or not. Don't really care. The point is, the woman is dead. 2 people were shot. And you also have been a person of interest in Jafesha Mitchell's murder back in July of 2022. So obviously you like to go for bad. Well, now you are in the Knoxville detention facility, better known as the penal farm. So you can parade around there and claim whoever you are, GD, whatever, over there, and see how that works for you. A life wasted. Beautiful looking young lady, beautiful girl. I don't know what happened between those two. They obviously were friends, associates, because she was following him on Facebook. You can go to her page to see. It'll be under DENISHKA Melina, if you're curious. They were friends. So I don't know what happened in that house on Walker Street. I don't know what happened in that house on Gilbert Lane. But I know one person is not speaking. 2 were shot. He was shot, the suspect, Mr. Osborne. 2 other people were arrested who were obviously with him and went into that home. I'm assuming they broke in. I don't know. And then his mother was arrested for aiding and tampering with evidence after the fact. Mr. Osborne, you chose this lifestyle and you chose your fate with whatever happened with her. And once again, she filed a rape report against him the day before her death. All this took place last week. So we're talking about 1 week to the date. Once again, my condolences to DENISHKA's family and to Jafesha Mitchell's, because I do not want to leave Jafesha out, because I do believe he possibly murdered her as well. In July of 2022, he was a person of interest in her case. If he did not have anything to do with it, fine. But I believe there's a reason why he was a person of interest. And you can't erase that. You can't erase that. Because how are you going from 22, you're a person of interest in a woman's death, and now you're indicted on murder of this woman? Let's do the math. O.J. Simpson, thank you so very much for joining me. Let's get down to business, everybody. O.J. Simpson, a well-known athlete in his time, also found not guilty in the murder of Nicole Brown Simpson, his former wife, and Ronald Goldman, her friend associate. In 1994, a crime took place. He was indicted, and he was found not guilty in those 2 murders. Thereafter, he went on to live his life, but still had some troubles, allegations of abuse against women, and then that infamous burglary that took place in Las Vegas, with he and others trying to retrieve or extract his memorabilia that was auctioned off for civil lawsuit, exchange of a civil lawsuit from the Goldmans and the Browns. I do not know if he paid all those monies to the families, to the victims' families. But he got a 9 to 33-year sentence for that burglary in that hotel. And it's just a shame that a person has such a, a talent to play sports, and this is what their life ended up being. Indicted for murder, double homicide, then years later, burglary of a hotel, individuals in a hotel trying to get their memorabilia back. Just crazy nonsense. And people even would say, well, was it worth it trying to get this, to get that? Clothes and shoes, that's no big deal. A pair of shoes, a suit. But I understand you would want your trophies or rings or anything that, you may have gotten from a team or whatever. But they can always give you that back. Naturally, it won't be the original one they handed to you, a trophy, Heisman trophy or a ring or whatever, but it can be made again. Some will say he's a selfish man, self-absorbed man, a narcissist, sociopath. You're entitled to your opinion of O.J. Simpson. Let's get down to business, everybody. Thank you for joining me. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $BeganJu 129, Cash App, stickers, and chats are always welcome during the live stream. We're going to talk about Mr. Simpson, the legacy, the life, the turmoil, the murders, if you believe he committed those crimes many moons ago. I was a young woman then at that time, and I was, straddling the fence with the evidence, the material, all the nonsense with Mr. Furman. And I will say, as I said in my commentary last night, I was elated when he was found not guilty. But as time went by, as I said, I still straddled the fence even when all that was going on. But the Mark Furman business, plus the blood droplets and all that, it threw me off too, thinking, okay, what are the odds that some random person, would have blood on your vehicle inside of your car? And then listening to Marcia Clark the other night, she gave some commentary about the bloody footprint. I don't know if I could remember that or not inside the vehicle. You have to count all that as well. What would be the odds of some random stranger finding your car to drop blood on the outside, inside, shoe print, same size as the shoe you wear, which is a size 11. What would be the odds? Sorry, I'm having a little difficulty getting this started. I don't know what's going on here. It's not working. It's crazy nonsense. Hello, everybody. I don't know what's going on. This is weird. Kind of windy today in the high 10, but it's going to be 80 near Sunday. Temperature changes. Temperature changes. Up and down, up and down. Oh, Lordy. I don't know what is the deal? I cannot get this to play for some reason. This is weird. It's so... This is what happens every time I go live. I can't ever get... I have everything nice and neatly planned. It never works in my favor. It's just... I think it's a sign. It's time to start regrouping on some of the format to this... to what I'm doing. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to play you a lot of audio pertaining to O.J. Simpson. We're going to go back in time to 94. We're going to play a lot of content. People have spoken out pertaining to O.J. Simpson. And I'm going to read you some of that commentary as well. Thank you all so much for joining me. I might need to move over. That might be my issue.
We're coming on the air because we have breaking news. O.J. Simpson has died. His family says Simpson died yesterday, saying he succumbed to his battle with cancer
2 days ago,
surrounded by his children and grandchildren. It was revealed in February that Simpson was battling prostate cancer, but he refuted rumors at the time that he was in hospice care. ABC News audio reporter Alex Stone joins me now on the phone. Alex, what do we know at this point?
Well, Diane, his family, as you mentioned, says that he died yesterday, we believe, in Las Vegas, where he had been living. It was only a couple of weeks ago where he had refuted the claims that he was in hospice care right around the Super Bowl. Word had come out that he may have been in hospice care, and he put out a video on X saying that he was fine, looking like he was going to go golfing. His impact on Southern California and really the world cannot be overstated. Going back to his time in the NFL and at USC and then the NFL, then the infamous trial in the 90s for the double murder of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. He was acquitted of that. There were a number of years where he was in and out of the headlines, and then we covered for a number of months the hotel room armed robbery case in Las Vegas. He ended up going to prison for that, got out, had been living in Las Vegas. His family now saying on X that he has died, Diane.
Alex, he became such a national focal point during that trial for the murders of his wife and his ex-wife at the time and her friend. What legacy does O.J. Simpson leave behind now so many years later?
Well, I think that depending on how one looks at O.J. Simpson, there is the football part of it, the star that he was, the Hertz commercials running through the airport. He was the biggest of the big star before that trial. And then the shock of the trial, there are many Americans who will always believe that he committed that double murder, others who believe that he did not. You remember the lines that came out of that? If it does not fit, you must acquit. The impact of that trial, for those who were not alive during that time, were not old enough to remember it, was incredible. The whole world watching that trial during that time, the whole world watching TV and listening to the radio, waiting for that verdict to come down. And then when it came down, much of America did not agree with it. And then he was sometimes almost comically in and out of the headlines over many years. And then to get in trouble again in Las Vegas, to get back his own memorabilia, he got into the memorabilia trade and selling his items over many years. And then went into retirement, always claiming he was looking for the real killers of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. There were always those who were saying he wasn't doing enough to do that if he really was not involved in the murders. But he then went into retirement in Florida and Nevada and had been relatively quiet over the last couple of years.
All right. Alex Stone, thank you. And again, we have breaking news that O.J. Simpson has died. His family says he succumbed to his battle with prostate cancer. O.J. Simpson was 76 years old.
ABC News is the source, everybody. I'm going to bring you a little bio on O.J. Simpson. Thank you all so much for joining me. Oh, mercy. The infamous O.J. Simpson has finally perished. Some may be happy, some may be sad. Of course, we're never supposed to revel in death, but some would say, well, he took 2 lives, stole 2 lives. Why would I care about the passing of O.J. Simpson? You're entitled to your opinion. I'm going to bring you some bio on Mr. Simpson. It'll be a bit winded, so excuse me. I'm also going to bring you some information on the now Caitlyn Jenner, because she has put up a scathing post pertaining to the late O.J. Simpson. Let's read his last post to X. Thank you so much. Last tweet, rather. It's getting kind of chilly in here. Mercy. Weird weather we're having. Once again, 76 years of age, died from prostate cancer. What stages was the cancer? Did he not want people to know that he was very ill? Or, oh my goodness. Well, I don't understand this. Orenthal James Simpson was an American football player, actor, convicted felon. He played in the National Football League for 11 seasons, primarily with the Buffalo Bills, and he is regarded as one of the greatest running backs of all time. Mr. Simpson was born July 9, 1947, died April 10, 2024, at the age of 76 in Las Vegas, Nevada. He leaves behind children Sydney Brooke Simpson, Jason Simpson, Justin Ryan Simpson, Arnell Simpson, and Aaron Simpson. He was married to Nicole Brown Simpson from 1985 to 1992, and Marguerite Whitley, 1967 to 1979. His parents were Jimmy Lee Simpson and Eunice Simpson. As I said, a lot of people have a lot to say pertaining to OJ. I want to bring this bio, but somehow it's having problems pulling up. It's making me go through show you I'm not a robot to bring you the information. Thank you so much. Hello. Caitlyn has spoken out. Ron Goldman's father has spoken out. Now Caitlyn Jenner has spoken out. A few people have spoken out pertaining to O.J. Simpson. The passing. Trying to get this bio up. It's having a problem. Can't really hear it.
Was the last time he'd spoken out publicly before the news of the controversial former athlete's stunning passing.
My health is good. I mean, obviously, I've dealt with some issues. But, hey, I think I'm just about over it. I'll be back on that golf course, hopefully in a couple of weeks.
OJ posted from Vegas on Super Bowl weekend.
God bless.
Today, his family revealed OJ succumbed to cancer.
So he looked like he was healthy. He was sitting in a chair. So it was more than just twittering on X. He appeared that he could, sit upright and speak. I thought it was just him, twittering with just, his hands. But he was sitting in a chair, looking, halfway decent. So was he in the late stages? One could possibly say yes. I don't know. They say he was in hospice, but he obviously denied that he was. That was his right if he didn't want to share with people that he was in hospice or that he was in the final stages of cancer. I don't know. Was he diagnosed with stage 3, stage 4? Did he get a prognosis that he was dying? He just didn't want to share that with people. He just wanted to have faith and hold out, because some people get a prognosis of death, but they go on to live 2, 3 years, a year, 5 years. I've seen that happen. In a documentary, a woman was diagnosed with stage 4, and she went on to live about 5 or so years after her prognosis. A lot of people have spoken out about Mr. Simpson. Caitlyn Jenner, for one. Lord have mercy, what a mess. I'm going to bring you that said information here. Sorry it's taking me so long to get everything out. Oh, you felt old? Yeah, I guess so. Well, a lot of people don't know who anybody is, depending on when you're born, I'm trying to bring you the commentary from that I put up on Caitlyn Jenner, because Caitlyn has said some not so nice things. Good riddance. is what Caitlyn Jenner has said about O.J. Simpson. And some people have responded, basically saying, well, you know, you of all people talking when you were involved in a wreck back in 2015 that caused the death of a woman. So why are you speaking about O.J. Simpson? Let's see if I can pull it up. You hear that wind outside? Wow. All right, everybody. Uploaded yesterday. Caitlyn Jenner slammed for scathing reaction to O.J. Simpson's death. Didn't you kill somebody? Giving her honest opinion to the news, Caitlyn Jenner took to her X account, formerly Twitter, to give her two-word reaction, good riddance. She also used the hashtag O.J. Simpson to show exactly what she was referring to. However, critics were quick to find the irony to Jenner's remark. Some posted pictures of Jenner and O.J. hanging out as friends back in the day. It's funny how things changed, one critic declared in a comment. Other critics then posted screenshots of stories about Caitlyn Jenner's February 2015 car crash, which resulted in the death of Kim Ho, an animal rights activist and actress. Ho was killed when Jenner's black SUV slammed into her vehicle, which caused a sequence of collisions. Numerous people were injured in the accident. Somebody replied, SWB says, I know you not talking, replying to Jenner. Although prosecutors didn't file any criminal charges against Jenner, 3 civil lawsuits were filed against the former Olympian by Ho's stepchildren and drivers of the other vehicles involved in the accident. Ho's stepchildren ended up settling their lawsuit in January 2016 with the undisclosed sum, and I forgot that amount, it's like $800,000, and it was split up between the family members. With the screenshots, critics clapped back at Caitlyn Jenner asking, didn't you murder someone? And I know you're not talking. Wow, that's deep. Okay, very interesting information. It says Nicole was a close friend of Chris, you know, who was married to Mr. Jenner when he was a former male. Anyway, oh Lord. Nicole was married to O.J. for 7 years before filing for divorce in '92. She and her good friend Ron Goldman found stabbed to death at her Brentwood condo on June 12, 1994. Although O.J. was infamously found not guilty for the murders and was acquitted, Caitlyn didn't believe he was innocent. While appearing as a contestant on Big Brother VIP in 2021, Jenner recalled O.J. openly threatening to kill Nicole. She had told Chris and Caitlyn about this threat right before her and Goldman's murder. At one point, he told Nicole, I'll kill you and get away with it because I'm O.J. Simpson. Well, did he say that? I don't know. Caitlyn Jenner pointed out that it was an extraordinarily difficult time for her and the Kardashian clan. Nicole was Chris's best friend, had been for a long time. I was at Nicole's house 2 days before the murder. She then recalled being in the courtroom when the verdict was read. Chris turned around to me and goes, we should have listened to Nicole. She was right from the beginning. All right, that's the latest information pertaining to that. Okay. Yes, everybody was friends at one time. But as we've learned, things change. People change. And naturally, if someone's been convicted of a murder, people will decide if they want to be friends or not with the person. Just the way it is. Just like Caitlyn Jenner, you were in a wreck that caused the death of somebody. Don't know what really happened on that highway that day, but some could say you murdered that woman. I don't know. Some will say, oh, it was an accident. I don't know. Let's go back to that incident because people are going to want to know what it's about, so I'm going to go ahead and discuss it. CNN is the source, everybody. Caitlyn Jenner won't be charged for her role in a deadly 4-car accident earlier this year in California. The Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office announced Wednesday. Prosecutors said in a charge evaluation worksheet that it couldn't be proved that Jenner's driving was negligent and they didn't file a misdemeanor vehicle manslaughter charge. Caitlyn Jenner sued over fatal car accident. The decision was welcomed by Jenner and her legal team, who believed from the start that a thorough and objective investigation would clear Caitlyn of any criminal wrongdoing, Lord Blair Burt said. We are heartened. The district attorney has agreed that even a misdemeanor charge would be inappropriate, Burke said. A traffic accident, however devastating and heartbreaking, when a life is lost, is not necessarily a criminal matter. Jenner was driving a black Cadillac SUV on February 7th. That was the third vehicle involved in a multiple rear-end collision on Pacific Coast Highway in Malibu. Police have said Kimberly Howe, 69, was driving her Lexus when Jenner's SUV hit her car from behind, sending it into oncoming traffic where it was hit by another SUV. She died at the scene, police said. An investigation found Jenner was driving slower than the speed limit and slightly slower than the victim's driving. Okay, very interesting. Okay. Judges, hold on, was it? Jumped off there. Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. Judges approves Caitlyn Jenner. This is so crazy. They threw the gender change right in there too. They write these articles so ridiculous. About 4 seconds before the accident, Howe hit her brakes and slowed down. Jenner lifted off the gas pedal of the SUV, which was towing a dune buggy. Jennifer applied brakes for 1.5 to 1.9 seconds before the SUV hit the victim's car. How would you know that? 1.5, 1.9 seconds. This is ridiculous here. Based on facts, cannot prove beyond a reasonable doubt that suspect's conduct was unreasonable, an investigator wrote. Well, they could tell by your tire tracks, if you were speeding excessively and you hit on the brakes, because you're going to probably burn rubber hitting your brakes. The 1976 Olympic decathlon champion released a statement after the accident. My heartfelt and deepest sympathies go out to the family and loved ones, and to all of those who were involved or injured in this terrible accident. It is a devastating tragedy, and I cannot pretend to imagine what this family is going through at this time. I am praying for them. 2 Howe's stepchildren and the driver of a Prius that allegedly stopped in front of Howe's car was hit by Jenner's SUV are suing Jenner. So let's repeat that again. 2 Howe's stepchildren and the driver of a Prius that allegedly stopped in front of Howe's car. So it must have been a ripple effect. Somebody stopped in front of the dead woman's car, okay? Because it says 2 of her stepchildren and the driver of the Prius that allegedly stopped in front of Howe's car. It's very weird. And was hit by Jenner's SUV are suing Jenner. The Prius driver, Jessica Steindorf, was cited for driving on a suspended license, Curry said. Why Caitlyn Jenner's transgender experience is from the norm. Why is that in this article? I don't know why they keep throwing this stuff in here. This is so crazy. So these people got some money. This is a weird story to me. If you didn't get cited by the district attorney for the accident, why pay the money? Is it because at that time he was famous? They found out he was a famous person also involved in the wreck. So let's sue the person who has some money, because that's what it seems like to me. Because we know poor people can't pay anything, or regular people don't have the monies to pay for car accidents, whether they're in the wrong or out of the wrong. So I find it very interesting that, well, I'm not going to say I find it interesting. I'm not shocked that Jenner would be sued. I don't know what is going on with this monitor. It's just not acting right. It's very interesting. Anywho, you're entitled to dissect it as you see fit. Because it looks like the lady she stopped on her brakes. So then you got to ask yourself, why would she be hitting on her brakes all of a sudden? If you're driving on a highway, there's really no reason to be stopping on your brakes if you think about it. So is this a 2-lane highway, 4-lane highway? Why is everybody stopping on the brakes? It's very bizarre. I don't really understand it. Now I'm going to mention to you the settlement pertaining to all of this nonsense. I'm only mentioning this because some people have responded to Jenner's comment about OJ. Like, well, you hit somebody and you pushed their car out into traffic. And that car, Miss Howe's car, got hit by an oncoming SUV on the opposite lane. There were no charges brought against the then Bruce Jenner, who is now Caitlyn. Caitlyn Jenner to pay $800,000 settlement for 2015 fatal crash. So I'm just bringing you all this information in case you're curious to what happened back then. Caitlyn Jenner will pay $800,000 to settle a lawsuit stemming from a 2015 fatal car crash. Jenner struck a car that slammed into a vehicle in which 5 family members had been riding, including musician Peter Wolf Malesi, his wife Leah Wolf Malesi, their 2 children, and Leah's mother, Elga Moore, court documents state. According to the petition to the court to accept the settlement, which was obtained by ABC News, Mara will receive $500,000. Peter and Leah Wolf Malesi will receive $100,000, and their 2 sons will receive $50,000 apiece. Very interesting. I'm trying to understand how all these people got all this money. Malesi. So Peter and the husband and wife, they only got $100,000 apiece. Their sons got $50,000, so that's your 100 right there. So 200, 300,000 they got. But Mauer, which will be the older lady, she got the most money, which was $500,000. The documents state that Mauer suffered a cervical spine fracture. Peter Wolf Malesi suffered severe nerve injuries to his hands and wrists. Leah Peter Wolf Malesi suffered blunt trauma to her knees, as well as neck and back injuries and emotional distress. Nino Wolf Malesi suffered blunt trauma and emotional distress. And Gitano Wolf Malesi, who was 4 weeks old at the time, was hospitalized after he failed to respond to stimuli at the scene. Later, doctors determined that he suffered no physical injuries, the paperwork said. Wow, so they had a newborn in the car. Jenner will also pay for the plaintiff's medical expenses and attorney's fees. Wow, wow, wow. So let me show you a picture of the couple that was in the vehicle with their family members. That's the couple that was in the car that Caitlyn hit with their children and then an older mother. Very interesting. All right, everybody. There have been confidential settlements of all claims and cross complaints, and all parties are satisfied with the outcome. Philip W. Bosch Jr., an attorney for Jenner, told ABC News in a news statement. Added Spencer Lucas, an attorney for the Wolf Malesi family, the case has settled and the Wolf Malesi family is happy to be moving on with their lives. Jenner, 68, was involved in the 4-car pileup in Malibu, California on February 7, 2015 that resulted in the death of 70-year-old Kim Howe. She was not charged with a crime, and the Los Angeles County District Attorney determined she was driving below the speed limit and engaged her brakes before impact. We believe from the start that a thorough and objective investigation will clear Caitlyn of any criminal wrongdoing, Blair Burt said, which was the attorney at the time. We are heartened the district attorney has agreed that even a misdemeanor charge would be inappropriate, and I stated that earlier. A traffic accident, however devastating and heartbreaking when a life is lost, is not necessarily a criminal matter. ABC News is the source. Sorry to bring you that, but I wanted to clarify everything in case somebody comes back and say, well, what happened with the car accident? Why are people bringing that up, that Jenner was in a car wreck? Only because a few people are making comments that Jenner shouldn't be saying anything about OJ unaliving Ron and Nicole, that she, back in 2015, was in an accident, was incited, was driving under the speed limit, but when she slammed into the back of a car, that car went into oncoming traffic and that elderly lady was hit by an SUV. That's the latest on that, or back then. Well, his last Twitter account, O.J. Simpson, let's hear what he had to say. You briefly heard it during this live, but we're going to play it where it's a little bit louder and you can hear it. Thanks for joining me.
OJ let her unequivocal feelings be known in a 2-word tweet. Good riddance. One of the last times OJ was seen by photographers was in Vegas just last November, signing autographs and taking pictures with fans.
He didn't shy from the cameras, didn't shy from the public. He was out and about on the Vegas Strip.
Melvin spoke with TMZ.
He was limping a little bit.
Producer Charles
Looks like he was limping a little bit.
OJ's final days.
We know that there were friends, close friends who were flying in as of last week, and they were spending time with him because he wanted to see them before he went.
Do you think that OJ was concerned about his legacy?
Nobody ever said
Excuse me.
that ego was something O.J. Simpson was lacking. That would definitely be something that was going through his head.
He'd reportedly been battling prostate cancer for the past few years, but in February, he denied reports he was on his deathbed in hospice care.
Hospice? Hospice? You talking about hospice? No, I'm not in any hospice. I don't know who put that out there.
OJ was, of course, best known for the so-called trial of the century, where a jury acquitted him of killing his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and Ronald Goldman.
She knew exactly what was going to happen to her.
Nicole's good friend, Kris Jenner, and the wife of his defense attorney, Robert Kardashian, revealed their haunting final conversation to Dateline NBC.
And she had told me, you know, things are really bad between OJ and I, and he's going to kill me, and he's going to get away with it.
You never thought of him as a killer.
Oh, no.
A civil jury later found OJ liable for Nicole and Ron's deaths. He was ordered to pay $33.5 million. In 2008, OJ was convicted by a Las Vegas jury of kidnapping and armed robbery charges. The 70-year-old even joking with the board who voted to set him free.
And we have that you are currently, well, very recently turned 90 years old.
I feel like it, though.
Before he was infamous, he was just plain old sports world famous. Orenthal James Simpson, a football superstar, first in college, then in the pros. His early years were chronicled in the award-winning documentary OJ Made in America.
I hope you're going to be smiling, Daddy. Yeah, about 4:35. I'm playing too.
After he turned pro, he became a celebrated pitchman.
Nobody does it better than her.
He then made the move to the movies. This is his famous scene from The Naked Gun. OJ had almost entirely kept himself out of the public spotlight until he took to Twitter in 2019.
This should be a lot of fun. I got a little getting even today.
And while he tried to rehab his image, OJ could never escape that 1994 crime. Carissa spoke with the director of OJ Made in America.
Why do you think we're so obsessed with OJ?
I would say it's the lack of resolution. No one actually knows what happened that night, and we still want to know.
We still want to know. Well, some people believe they know. He unalived these two people. You're entitled to your opinion if you believe it or not. Did he unalive these people? Was the evidence solid, but the people couldn't come to an agreement? If you watch my live stream from last night, you will get a glimpse into what I saw in a documentary made by ESPN, if I'm not mistaken, that the people behind the scenes were, they couldn't get to a resolution pertaining to OJ and his guilt or innocence. And that was also a problem. So you have the Mark Fuhrman derogatory comments about Black people played out in court by a woman who was interviewing him about being, you know, in law enforcement and dealing with crime and his job and his role as a police officer, detective. And then that got played in court because she felt like people needed to know who Mark Fuhrman was as a person working the case, his demeanor, his attitude towards Black people. And then we found out years later when this ESPN documentary was aired that the people behind the scenes were fighting and arguing and acting outrageous, arguing and fussing and tussling with each other, one jumping on top of the table. Don't know if that really happened, but that's what was played out in the movie that was made. And so I thought, well, my goodness, it's one thing to be listening at this BS from Furman. Don't know if he had anything to do with planting evidence or moving evidence. Then the glove, that was at Rockingham. One would say, well, how did the glove get there? So you have all these things in your head playing out, trying to figure out, did this man do this? Why would he do this? Was he this obsessed with this woman? I do believe he wanted control, as I stated in my commentary last night. He wanted control. He's self-absorbed. I do believe O.J. Simpson was a narcissist. I do believe he was a sociopath. I believe he always, wanted greatness for himself. Once he saw he had a talent from, high school into college, he knew he wanted to be somebody. Many people say he didn't identify with being African-American. He said that out of his own mouth. I'm not black. I'm not anything. I'm OJ. So he didn't want to be labeled black. Obviously he didn't want to be labeled what? Working class, poor. He just wanted to be called OJ. That's my name. That's who I am. I'm not nothing but OJ. And some would say, okay, we understand. Okay, you OJ, that's the name your mother gave you, but you're still black. So maybe he had an identity issue. Maybe he had a problem with being poor, black, raised in the hood, had to suffer. Well, everybody has a past. Everybody came from something. Whether you were raised Jewish, raised this, Christian, but that doesn't have to define you. And I think he thought that. I'm defined by being black. I'm defined by being poor. I'm defined by, being raised in public housing or low-income housing. But that's a stupid way to think of yourself. That's a stupid thing to think of yourself, because you don't have to be defined by your parents, their nationality, your size, your weight, your gender, whatever. That's a choice for you to identify and say, well, I'm only this. So go to college, make a name in college, go pro, play ball for years, become well-known, getting accolades, this and that, doing commercials for Hertz. Perhaps all that gave him a big head. I think he was already probably confident going into college. And then once you see that you're excelling, people are putting you up on pedestals. Now you're pro, you're going on a pedestal even higher. He lost himself. And this happens with a lot of people who are famous. This also happens with people who are just regular Joes and Janes. They start to think they're, floating out of their body. There's somebody else, and they can't come back down to earth. And I think that was his downfall. Now, he was married to Marguerite. They had 2 children. His older children are by Marguerite. They divorced. He met Nicole. Simple young lady, white lady. Many people judged him for that. Why are you dating this white woman? A lot of people felt like that was his downfall. Married a white woman, dating a white woman. Maybe. Because you didn't hear of all this turmoil and battery and violence until he got with Nicole. Let's just keep it truthful. And then he continued to date white women. Still, even after going to jail, going to the trial, found not guilty, he still had an issue with his hands and women. So one would wonder what the hell happened to get on this path of battery, being accused of murdering 2 people, beating up your wife, Nicole, her telling people she thought he was going to kill her. If she died or something happened to her, look at OJ. And in the end, people looked at OJ. He was indicted. What happened? And I'm curious, even now wondering, had he not met Nicole, had he even stayed dating his own race, would that have helped him? I don't know. But you have to admit, it's strange. So I'm just dissecting all the points of OJ's life, his choices that he made. Should he have dated black women? I don't know. Some might say, hell yeah. Because it didn't seem to work dating white women. And let's just keep it real. Because you have to admit, there was like a 360. from his life with Marguerite, raising kids, to getting with her. And then even after the trial, you're free. You're still in this spiral of battering women. What the hell is the deal? Because I don't remember hearing that he battered Marguerite. So that's why I'm curious. So why was it with the white women? I'm just curious. I don't know. It's very, very, very weird and wicked. Let's go to Caitlyn. So I told you about Caitlyn Jenner's commentary saying good riddance. And she has received flack for that Twitter comment.
I've been asked to comment on the death of O.J. Simpson.
Caitlyn, everybody.
Foremost, I'd like to express my condolences to the children, to Sydney, to Justin, to Jason and Arnell. They lost their father, and that is never easy. I wish to express my love and compassion to the Goldmans, to Fred and to Kim. I hope you find closure. And finally, to the family of the beautiful Nicole Brown Simpson. May we always cherish her memories. Nicole was a beacon of light that burned bright. May we never forget her.
Caitlyn, his commentary pertaining to the death of O.J. Simpson. He sent his condolences to the family, also to the Browns and the Goldmans. Caitlyn Jenner
shocks social media with her response to O.J. Simpson's death. Following the former NFL player's passing, which his family announced in a statement on X, Caitlyn responded to the death of the star, whose media presence in sports, Hollywood, and eventually court TV loomed large for decades. The 74-year-old writes on X, formerly Twitter, "Good riddance." Of course, Caitlyn's ex-wife is Kris Jenner, who had previously been married to O.J.'s best friend and defense attorney Robert Kardashian, who defended the NFL star in his 1995 murder trial. However, Caitlyn always made her thoughts on O.J. crystal clear. During a 2019 episode of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, the reality star reflected on the trial's controversial verdict, sharing what she told stepdaughters Kim and Kourtney Kardashian at the time, explaining, "I just said to the girls, just because he got a not guilty didn't mean he didn't do it," adding, "I don't want his name ever mentioned in this house again." In addition to Caitlyn, Fred Goldman, whose son Ron Goldman died in the 1994 Brentwood stabbing, of which O.J. was acquitted, issued a statement in response to O.J.'s death, telling NBC News, "This is just a reminder for us of how long Ron has been gone, how long we have missed him, and nothing more than that. That is the only thing that is important today." Gloria Allred, the family attorney of Nicole Brown Simpson, O.J.'s ex-wife, who also died in the 1994 stabbing, appeared live on New York City's ABC7, sharing, "I feel that the system failed Nicole Brown Simpson and failed battered women everywhere. In the civil case which followed, he was found liable, responsible for her wrongful death. In any event, I don't mourn for O.J. Simpson. I do mourn for Nicole Brown Simpson and her family." In 1994, O.J. was arrested and pleaded not guilty to both murders. He was acquitted in 1995 in what has been dubbed the trial of the century by many. He was later sued by the families of Goldman and Brown in civil court. He was found liable for their deaths and was ordered to pay tens of millions of dollars in damages. On April 11th, O.J.'s family released a statement on X, formerly Twitter, announcing, "On April 10th, our father, Orenthal James Simpson, succumbed to his battle with cancer. He was surrounded by his children and grandchildren."
All right, E-News is a source. So different people giving their opinions. Ms. Allred, the attorney for Nicole Brown Simpson's family. Commentary from Mr. Goldman. It's just a lot to digest. Caitlyn Jenner. when we think about back then, Mr. Kardashian, he was representing OJ. Did he say to himself, I know this man killed this woman? Did he ever say to himself, say out loud to somebody, did he say it to OJ, I think you killed her? I always wondered about the conversations between OJ and the lawyers, because we heard a lot of crazy nonsense with that after the fact, that they all were battling each other, trying to see who was going to be the head honcho, who was going to be the lead, and, you know, all this money spent to have these people represent him, but they were battling each other. It was, you know, beating of the chest as well. So I wonder if Mr. Kardashian thought to himself that OJ did this. He committed this crime, and did he ever tell him? Did he ever tell somebody else? What secrets did he take to the grave? I do believe they said that there was a difference, a shift in their friendship after, you know, the trial was over and he was found not guilty, O.J. Simpson, that I think he stopped, you know, dealing with him and being around him because he felt awkward being around him. And naturally, you would feel awkward if your spirit is telling you, or your inner being is saying, hey, I think he murdered these people. It would be hard to be friends with a person and deal with them and talk to them. So I'm wondering, did he just immediately cut OJ off, stop talking to him, stop answering phone calls? What actually happened between Mr. Kardashian and OJ Simpson? Naturally, Kris Jenner, I'm sure she tapered off because Nicole was her friend. Looking at Caitlyn now, the former Bruce Jenner, is creepy to me because I know that's a man wearing all this makeup and hair and all this. The fact that he switched over to Caitlyn, calling Caitlyn, you know, his new self, late in life in his 60s, just bizarre to me. It's very bizarre to me. Although this is, you know, a little off topic, but he is now a female, calls himself a female, identifies as a female rather. All that's weird to me. Strange, bizarre. I still, just looking at the new person, it's like, how in the world could you wait this late in life to decide to cross over? And I remember interview, I believe it was with, was it either Barbara Walters or Diane Sawyer? It might be Diane Sawyer. She was like, well, I'm not ready for dating yet. Haven't thought about that. But one would say that would have to come as well. I might do a video on her at another time since she decided to be so boisterous about OJ. Because I'm very confused about all this late transference of sexes. And one's going to use deduction. Well, why are you going to want to cross over and not date men? And that's a whole nother subject. But anywho, just giving you all the people who have speaking out pertaining to O.J. Simpson. One of the other former attorneys, Mr. Carl Douglas, he has spoken out about, you know, Mr. Simpson, giving his condolences as well, speaking very eloquently, and he's choosing his words very carefully. Got to bring you all some updates too pertaining to breaking news. Try not to overcrowd that during this live stream pertaining to OJ. But I just want to go through all the content I have found, because it's a whole lot that's out there right now. Different documentaries pertaining to OJ Simpson. And I don't want to hold you all very long pertaining to OJ. But we have Kato, who has spoken, Caitlyn Jenner, who has tweeted to X. We've also heard that Mr. Goldman has spoken. And we're going to go to that, his commentary. And then we're going to go back in time, back to when O.J. Simpson was found not guilty. Well, Mr. Goldman.
Yeah.
Has to be very hard, gut-wrenching to know this man has been free and only did 9 or so years in prison just for the burglary, but not the death of your son and Nicole Brown Simpson. It's very interesting information.
Called Mr. Goldman.
Sorry about that.
Fred Goldman, Ron's dad, lives right here in the Valley. Our very own Mark Curtis sat down for an exclusive interview with him in July of 2017. Mark called Mr. Goldman again this morning to give his reaction. He and his wife, Kim, sent us this statement here. It reads in part, "The news of Ron's killer passing away is a mixed bag of complicated emotions. For 3 decades, we tirelessly pursued justice for Ron and Nicole, and despite a civil judgment and his confession in If I Did It, the hope for true accountability has ended. We will continue to advocate for the rights of all victims and survivors, ensuring our voices are heard both within and beyond the courtroom." Let's take a look back now at what
Kim and Fred Goldman
had to say nearly 7 years ago about his new normal after his son's death.
O.J. Simpson. There has been no formal police action, but the coroner's report is in. Nicole Simpson and the man found with her had multiple wounds.
What was your life like before that? I guess you could say it was reasonably normal. We were a reasonably normal, dysfunctional family. I had raised Ron and Kim since they were roughly 4 and 6. I hoped that at some reasonable point I'd be able to retire, do my thing, and go for it and watch my kids grow up and get married and have kids of their own and enjoy life.
The bodies of Simpson's ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and Ronald Goldman were discovered early Monday morning.
It should have worked out that way. But on the night of June 13th, 1994, everything changed for Fred Goldman.
I wasn't home when the call came in. Patty had gotten the call. The call went something to the effect of, "Hello, this is Goldman's." "Yes." "Do you have a son, Ron?" "Yes." Patty said, "There's somebody from the coroner's office. They're calling about Ron." And I get on the phone, and this person said to me, "Are you aware of the murders that took place?" I said, "I don't know what you're talking about. Why are you calling?" "Well, your son was the other victim."
Time suddenly stopped. Fred Goldman's only son was gone.
I said, "Well, do I have to come down and identify?" "No, we know it's him. We had it." They hung up. And Patty and I stood in the kitchen hugging each other, crying our eyes out.
Things couldn't get any worse, but they did. He was the one who'd have to call and break the news to his daughter, Kim.
I said to Kim almost what was said to me by the coroner. "Did you hear anything about?" Kim said, "Why are you asking me something like that?" And I told her that Ron had been killed.
Fred's life had suddenly, in the cruelest possible way, lurched off the tracks.
Your life becomes a new normal, because the previous normal instantly goes away. Your dreams and your thoughts about what your child, in this case, is going to be doing with their life next year, next week, who their wife is going to be, what their kids are going to look like, all gone.
Weeks turned into months, and the months into years, as the O.J. Simpson case turned into the trial of the century.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder.
And even though many made it about race or celebrity, in the end, this was really about a father sitting in a courtroom, looking at the man that he believed had butchered his son.
When you're sitting there in the courtroom for weeks, and you're looking at him, and you know that he killed your son, how do you keep yourself from jumping over that railing?
It's an interesting question, because I thought about that many a time. And to this day, still think about it. I guess the answer is, I think of myself as a decent human being, and that's not something I would do.
Is there a lesson that you've learned?
The only thing I can say is that time does heal some. Doesn't heal everything, but time gives you the opportunity to have, as I said before, a new normal in your life. And the new normal may not be what you wanted it to be, but it's going to be your new normal.
In 1997, a civil suit by the victims' families found Simpson liable for the deaths of Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson and ordered him to pay $33.5 million in damages. Now, Simpson paid little of the debt, moved to Florida, and struggled to remake his life.
So little of the debt. What's little of the debt? Half? 20%? 30%? How much did O.J. Simpson pay in the civil suit? As you've seen with many cases of death, whether premeditated, manslaughter, a lot of people take the suspects to court, and they usually, or sometimes, I'm going to say usually, they can get a judgment depending on the 12 members of the jury, if they decide to show favor that that person caused the death of their loved one. As you hear in this commentary, O.J. Simpson was found not guilty for the murders of Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson, but later sued in court by the families, and they won a judgment civilly, $33.5 million. But that does not mean because you win it that you will get it. It's just like any lawsuit. You may win a judgment, but the person has to decide to pay you. As you hear in this commentary, they got little of the money. How much money did they get out of O.J. Simpson? You hear he went to Florida, tried to make a better life, still had problems with women. Naturally, he probably still had problems financially. And naturally, he also would have gotten a pension from the NFL. So I wonder if, or a Pro Bowl league, were they able to get any of that money? I don't know if you're able to get money from a pension from the any type of like NBA or NFL or AFC. I'm not really sure if a person is allowed to get monies, like in a civil suit, a judgment from you with from your pension. I'll have to do a little more research about that. It's very interesting information. That interview was from July 17, but at the beginning he gave his statement, and you know, naturally he doesn't care anything about what happened to O.J. Simpson. He could care less. I want to play Oprah Winfrey's TV show where they're discussing the O.J. Simpson verdict, but I don't want to play it for copyright infringement. But I just wanted people to hear the reactions from people, you know, at that time. I think I have some other content that shows the reaction of people. Let me see. When the verdict was read. Because naturally, you can't play certain things pertaining to copyright infringement. But we're still going to go back in history. The reading of the verdict. Thank you for joining me. Very wicked story, O.J. Simpson. And if I did it, that's even more crazy. Before I play the verdict, let's talk about that book, the infamous book. What was the point in writing that book, O.J. Simpson? He's not here to tell us now. I never could understand that. That really led me to believe with the book, If I Did It, and before then, because I think I had read another book written about the trial. It may have been the book that Marcia Clark wrote. It's a very important book. And then, you know, you had all that nonsense between she and Darden. They had an affair, blah, blah, blah. Just crazy bullshit. But anyhow, it's just more stuff to add on to something already diabolical. But of course, what people do with their private parts is their business, because they were on the same team. So, you know, if they want to have sex, that's their business. But just crazy nonsense. Furman nonsense. The Marcia Clark Darden BS thereafter during finding out how the jury were, you know, they were at odds with one another. And then the book. Why would you write a book saying, if I did it? That makes no sense. You have moved on, found not guilty, and that's the only thing you can think to do with your time. That led me to believe he did that. You know, if I think back to all what I saw during the trial, the evidence, to, you know, going back, and then listening to Marcia Clark, I'm going to play her commentary of what was found at the scene. No random stranger did that. No random stranger came and planted blood inside the car, door handles, socks, gloves at the house. It was easy to think that back then because of Furman. You understand what I'm saying? It was easy to think that then because of that Furman BS, using the N-word, not liking black people, whatever his fucking problem was. And he had a hard life after that too, because once you get out in the limelight for doing something that is supposed to be, you know, considered wrong or unethical, you're going to have a hard time navigating because people are going to always be looking at you. You got to worry about finding a job. So Furman, you know, he went on to do radio talk shows and crazy nonsense, but he didn't have a great life because Oprah ended up interviewing him too. Well, that was an interesting interview. He didn't care anything about black people. He didn't care about anybody, because when you got people who walk around like that, common sense will tell you, you know, people who are mad at the world, they're mad at everybody. It's not just black, white, Jews, Mexicans, whoever. They're just fucking angry. Because that's the whole point. If you can be mad at black people, you don't know them, you don't deal with them, just through your job as a cop, find you another job. But somebody like Mark Fuhrman at that time, and maybe still, he would have a problem if he wasn't a cop. He still wouldn't have liked black people if he was the garbage man. There's just people like that. They're just ignorant. They're bitter. They're mad. They're mad at everybody. Won't matter the race. They're just mad. So we've got this racist cop. That comes out during trial. That was tainted. Jury at odds. That's a problem. Over theatrics during the trial. Trying to believe this person's version. The gloves. OJ putting the gloves on. Now, fast forward. All that's over with. The book, the infamous book. I don't know why he would do this. But the flip side would be, he's a narcissist. He was self-absorbed. He's a sociopath. And I'm telling the world, hell yeah, I got away with killing those two people. Now I'm going to write this imaginary story. If I did do it, this is how I would have done it, blah, blah, blah. No sane, innocent person would ever pen a book with someone else if they committed the crime. Why would I do that? You found me not guilty. I'm not getting ready to go pen a book after the trial where you, 12 people, found me not guilty, whether you felt coerced or not, whatever. I'm not going to go pen some book. That's like raising the dead, doing something like this. You understand what I'm saying? Here we go. Troll City. This shows you something is wrong, or something was wrong with O.J. Simpson, because there was no logical reason to write that book. You won, you got a not guilty verdict, you should have moved on. Penning this book, if I did it, that was just showing disrespect to Nicole and Ron and the judicial process. Yeah, I beat you. I got 12 members to set me free. Now I'm going to show you. So it's like he was still beating the chest. I've got control of the situation. I'm going to show you I had control of the situation. But we know you didn't have control, because if you had control of the situation, you would have never murdered two people. You would have been sneaking around the lady's house, stalking her and gawking and looking through windows and accusing her of using this and that, drugs, sleeping with your friends. See, all type of allegations came out, just a bunch of nonsense between these people. But see, this is what happens when you're with people who you think you know and you don't know them. Nicole did not know O.J. Simpson. He didn't know her. And when they finally got together and learned each other, it was a clashing of two. And I'm not here to say that had she left him early on in those 7 years of marriage, that the results still would not have been the same. It probably would have been the same. This is why you can't linger in the madness. Because if he was beating her while married, that would lead me to wonder if he was beating her when they were dating. What's the difference? Because he still went on to beat other women after the not guilty verdict. So that shows he has the propensity for violence. You're still battering people after a not guilty verdict, then why wouldn't I think you wouldn't have been the person to kill these two people? So you have to pay attention to what's sitting in front of you. See, it was a lot of crazy nonsense during the trial, which would have led you to think, you know, maybe they set him up, plotted against him, because I was wrangling with that. But as time went by, as years went by, and I reassessed the information, I said, OJ did that. Let's go back in time, everybody.
All right, Mr. Cochran, Mr. Simpson, would you please stand and face the jury? Mrs. Robinson.
Superior Court of California, County of Los Angeles, in the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA 097211. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Nicole Brown Simpson, a human being, as charged in count 1 of the information.
October 3rd, 1995. Where were you?
State of California, County of Los Angeles, in the matter of the people of State of California versus Orenthal James Simpson. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Ronald Lyle Goldman, a human being, as charged in count 2 of the information. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, further find the special circumstance that the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, has in this case been convicted of at least one crime of murder of the first degree and one or more crimes of murder of the first or second degree to be not true. Signed this second day of October 1995, Juror 230. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is this your verdict? So say you one, so say you all.
Let's see, what day was that? They said, hold on.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is this your verdict? So say you one, so say you all.
All right, counsel, Mr. Simpson, would you be seated, please? Just have it quiet in the courtroom, please. All right, Mrs. Rock.
Let me play that date back.
In this case, been convicted of at least one crime of murder of the first degree and one or more crimes of murder of the first or second degree to be not true. Signed this second day of October 1995.
Second day.
Juror 230. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is this your verdict? So say you one, so say you all.
What is so interesting, the whimpering that you're hearing in the court, that's Ron's sister. You saw her, flipping her hair and everything and in disbelief. The father, he's disbelief. What's strange about that is you pan the camera over, you see the parents of Nicole, they're just nothing. Nothing. They're just kind of like, the daughter was the most emotional. Ron's sister. Very interesting information. October 2nd, 1995, a day in history. Where were you October 2nd, 1995? I remember as if it was yesterday. I was working in a Asian restaurant. I worked for this local restaurant. It was a little bitty place, just a little drive-through type place, fast food place. And we had the TV playing, and we were excited to get the verdict. And I, along with the owner, she's a very little, small, petite Asian lady, we were ecstatic that he was found not guilty. I remember as if it was yesterday. But like I said, as time went by, many years, I believed I knew better. Because as I said, I was a young woman in 1994. I would have been just, 23 years of age at that time. Near the same age as Ronald Goldman. And I straddled with what was given, said. Once again, 1995, I was ecstatic that OJ was found not guilty. But as time went by, reading that one book that I believe it was a book by Marcia Clark, I realized OJ had done that. And it's not to say I wasn't thinking that even when it was going on, but all that stuff with Mark Furman and just the attitude of Los Angeles Police Department, a lot of things came out when this trial started, and when he was arrested, rather, and then indicted. A lot of things came out about Los Angeles, had the most racial strong arming of civilians, Black people in general, other races, white, Hispanic. A lot of racism in the Los Angeles Police Department. A lot of mistreatment, as I said, of civilians, especially with African-American people. The police, they were brutal. This is on record. This is not a myth. They were brutal with African-American people. Los Angeles Sheriff Department, police officers. So there was no trust. See, this is what people have to understand, how you can get a not guilty verdict. The people live there. They know what it's like living there. whether they were rich, poor, middle class, whatever. The poor people knew what it was like living in Los Angeles, outside Los Angeles. So even if they didn't really identify with O.J. Simpson, they knew what it was like living there as a black person. They knew what it was like dealing with law officials. And they knew that those people were dirty, that a lot of the cops and sheriff were dirty. So here's this black man famous, being accused of killing 2 white people. That's probably what they were seeing at that time. The community, the jury pool, that was the jury people who were picked. That's what they're thinking. Oh, this is just another way to string up a black man. And that's what happens. You start to focus more on the issue of what was going on in the city, the county. You're not paying attention to the evidence. And then once you got Furman testifying, the audio of him using the N-word so many times, they lost count during an interview with this white lady who was doing a piece about, detective work in the Los Angeles Police Department. That's all it took. Oh, well, he don't even like black people. And he was working the crime scene. So it didn't really matter that you had blood here, a little blood here, hair fibers that match an African-American person. Not definitively OJ, but just some African-American hair. Blood on a car, blood on a door handle, blood on a sock, the bloody glove. Their DNA was also mixed in some of that blood. It didn't matter. It didn't matter.
All right, counsel, Mr. Simpson, would you be seated, please? Just have it quiet in the courtroom, please. All right, Mrs. Robertson, would you please poll the jurors?
Juror number 1, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 2, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 3, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 4, as...
Now, no matter what happened between Kardashian, Mr. Kardashian and O.J. Simpson, after the fact, during this verdict, he hugs him. They all are close-knit with O.J., all the attorneys. So Kardashian hugged him, lightly. They put heads together. So what happened after that? Did he start to assess everything afterwards? Or he just put on a front for the camera? I don't know. See, that's the whole thing. A dead man tells no tales. You don't really know.
To count 1, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 5, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 6, as to count 1, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 7, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 8, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 9, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 10, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 11, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 12, as to count 1, is this your verdict?
12 people found him not guilty. Do they have any regrets? So many questions you can ask pertaining to the trial of the century, which indeed it was. Many people watched all over the world, streaming all over the world in the United States. Do they have regrets to 12 members of the jury now that Mr. O.J. Simpson has perished from prostate cancer? What say you, the 12 members of the jury? Do you have regrets for finding him not guilty? Will you speak, some of you, now that O.J. has passed? Because I don't ever remember hearing that anyone gave an interview that they made a mistake on their verdict. And naturally, whether he's alive or dead, it will be crazy to speak now because people will be like, well, those 2 people are dead. What are you going to say now to tell us you made a mistake? You felt coerced? What? I think some of the jury members probably did, because if I believe that ESPN remake of OJ, the trial, they were at odds, the jury members, and I won't doubt it. I don't think that's a lie. I believe the jury members were at odds. I won't doubt they were fighting and fussing and falling out and showing out. I won't believe. I won't doubt that they were at odds. But now, fast forward, did any of them want to tell the truth? I made a mistake. I should have rendered my decision. But they knew what would have happened if they had said, not guilty, not guilty. Let's say it'd be 6-6 or whatever, 9-6 in favor to let him go. You would be the one to hang the jury, the ones who didn't agree. You understand what I'm saying? 9-3, I mean, excuse me, sorry about that. Either way, because it only takes one to hang a jury. So let's say 9 say he's not guilty. 3 say he's guilty. The 3 would hang the jury. And that would have been a problem. And it would start the process all over again. Naturally, he would have been remanded. Probably still no bond. He would have hated that, of course. So he's very happy. You know damn well OJ was very thrilled, elated they found him not guilty. Because he already knew, okay, it's good for me if 1 hangs the jury, 2 hangs the jury, but now we got to start the process all over again. I got to sit in this jail, can't be with my children, can't walk around, can't live. Will someone from the jury speak about OJ's death and their decision for a not guilty verdict? His children. Are all the children in agreement that OJ was innocent of killing Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson? Do all members of the Brown family still believe OJ murdered their child and their sister? Just a lot to ask and digest. Lord have mercy. Oh, Lordy. And the women who dated OJ, let's talk about that. Some famous actresses dated him after the fact, after the not guilty verdict. Why would you date a man who's been accused of killing 2 people? He starts beating you, and you don't say to yourself, oh my goodness, I could end up like Nicole. Wouldn't one even think that beforehand? He comes up to you, hi, how are you doing? You're a pretty lady. Would you like to go out on a date? Wouldn't you say to yourself, nah, I'm going to pass? No, thank you. You might even be afraid to say no, but saying no could preserve your life. And would he be stupid enough to go murder again? I don't know. But I'm telling you, when you read the book, the one book I read, it's just creepy. Because when you've got somebody who's right there in the fold of everything at the time of the trial, the arrest, the trial, you know, jury picking, all that, it's creepy listening to details. And then you have to factor in attorneys who were involved, such as Marcia Clark and Mr. Darden, people who processed the scene. You know, it's a fine mess, people tracking in the blood because blood was everywhere. See, that's another thing. The barking dog. Oh, my goodness, go on and on. That would have been a scary situation. Jury going to Rockingham, that would have been scary. Living next door to Nicole's condo, that would be scary as well. The different myths, theories people had of drug dealers, blah, blah, blah. I never believed that. I never believed that. I never believed that. I'm going to play a little more content. Thank you for joining me. Well, we know God knows. That's the thing. What you say? They probably do, but the defense presented better than the state. What are you talking about, Pinto? But the defense presented better. Oh, the defense presented better. Well, I think Mark Furman helped sway a lot of people. That's what I think. Once they heard him using the N-word in his interviews with that lady who was doing a documentary or whatever she was doing, that tainted the people's that tainted people's idea of law enforcement in LA, sheriff's department, white men working the case, detectives working the case. That's all it took. Because the first thing you're going to say, you know, why would I want this guy working the case? Hell no. You don't even like black people. I don't want him working the case. I don't want him working the case. No. I wouldn't want to work my case if I was indicted.
The envelope with the sealed verdict forms, please.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, would you give those to Deputy Charles?
Be still my heart.
All right, Mr. Simpson, would you please stand and face the jury?
This is a live audience reaction.
Mrs. Robertson.
Oprah Winfrey.
Superior Court of California, County of Los Angeles. In the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA097211. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187, a felony upon Nicole Brown Simpson, a human being as charged in count 1 of the information. Superior Court of the State of California, County of Los Angeles, in the matter of the people of the State of California versus Orenthal James Simpson. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Ronald Lyle Goldman, a human being, as charged in count 2 of the information.
We, along with the rest of the country, saw this verdict as you saw it, and the jury has spoken. Our audience has been here most of the morning waiting to see the verdict, and lots of people, as you saw, had some pretty strong reactions. Obviously, you're very happy.
I'm very happy for his family, for his children. I'm very happy. I'm also very happy. I think justice was served.
We'll try to let you out. Not everyone here is happy, however. Not everyone here is happy. I noticed that you are not.
No, I'm not happy. I just think it's just unfair. Everything, no, I feel so bad for her. She's saying, I just feel like she's rolling over in her grave. And she said if he ever did it, he would get away with it. That's what she said. And he knows he did.
We will be right back.
That was a live reaction when the verdict was read, October 2nd, 1995. Studio audience, Oprah Winfrey. Many people, few people were happy. More black people in that audience. Maybe a few whites were happy as well. Let's hear from Marcia Clark, everybody. Thank you for joining. After Rodney King. Rodney King was, I think, 90 or 91. Marcia Clark, district attorney who prosecuted the case of Los Angeles versus O.J. Simpson. This is her commentary many years later. Thank you for joining me. This was 7 years ago.
I got a punch. Here we go. You were the best prosecutor I'd ever seen in the courtroom. So what went wrong in the Simpson trial?
We're going to be here a long time.
Really not funny to laugh, seriously.
So, right from in the very, very beginning of the case, there was so much evidence. There was a blood trail before he even came back from Chicago. There was a blood trail leading from Bundy into his bedroom at Rockingham. There was the glove that matched the Bundy glove at Rockingham. The blood, right?
A blood trail leading from his house to his bedroom. Repeat that.
They're ready. So, right from in the very, very beginning of the case, there was so much evidence. There was a blood trail before he even came back from Chicago. There was a blood trail leading from Bundy into his bedroom at Rockingham. There was the glove that matched the Bundy glove.
I gotta hear that again.
There was a blood trail leading from Bundy into his bedroom at Rockingham. There was the glove.
So from Bundy, she says from Bundy. So that's the address where Nicole lived, a trail. So someone kind of say to themselves, what do you mean a trail? Because what are you saying? Blood was going all the way down the street, up into his driveway, up into his, you know what I'm saying, front door, over the wall, what? This is her analogy, Marcia Clark.
That matched the Bundy glove at Rockingham. With blood, with blood on it, yes. There were bloody shoe prints in the Bronco, blood on the door handle of the Bronco. Shoe prints, about his size. I can't remember now, 12?
11, Bruno Molly's.
Bruno Molly's.
She can't remember, wow.
Blood drops to the left. Notes,
yeah.
Blood drops to the left of the Bruno Molly's. And then he shows up with a cut on his left hand. I mean, good God. But within 5 days of getting the case, a friend of mine who was working in Compton, which is a very African-American heavy community, came to me and said, "This is a loser. You're going to lose this case. They don't like his case. No one wants to believe it. I'm telling you, you're toast." And so I gotta say, we knew we were always up against it in downtown Los Angeles. This was a very common thing. I'd been trying cases down for 10 years in downtown LA, and race was always an issue. There was a profound mistrust among the African-American community of the law enforcement. And every time we had a black defendant, we were going to be facing, we did face what we call the race card, which I don't like it because it's a pejorative and it kind of is dismissive of the fact that there's a really good reason for the mistrust that they had. But we were always faced with the argument, look, I know you're right, there are bad cops, but this time, not this time, was kind of a standard thing that we had to say. So with Simpson, it was going to be an issue, and we knew that. But how big an issue was really the question, because after all, this was not somebody who was underprivileged. This was somebody who was more than a member of the high society, white society, certainly not someone who had ever been mistreated by the police. In fact, they loved him. They were his adoring fans. So how hard could they play that card? That I didn't know until the story came out about Furman planting the glove. And we were seeing that they were believing it. It was being bought and it was being believed all over town, even though it was very, very plain. Furman had no opportunity to do it. He wasn't there. 1 million cops were on the scene before he was and saw only one glove, so there was nothing for him to move. And last of all, logically speaking, he's going to move a glove before he knows that Simpson has an airtight alibi, or somebody else comes in and confesses, or somebody else is an eyewitness knows who did it. That would be crazy. And Furman didn't have it in for him. He let him go. When Nicole made the call and Simpson had bashed in the windshield of her car while she was sitting in the driver's seat, Furman was the one who responded to the call and cut him loose. So,
wow, interesting.
How it was going to sell, why it was selling, it was very clear that it did sell. Didn't matter.
It's important for those of us who were born in Los Angeles at the time that this is also happening in the context of the Rodney King beating.
Everything got worse.
So talk a little bit about the context.
Yeah. So the Rodney King case was 4 or 5 police officers who beat Rodney King. I'm sure you know about that. And they caught it on videotape. And the beating was horrifying to watch. And our office prosecuted the cops. But it was an all-white jury in the bedroom community of Simi Valley, where a lot of police officers lived. And they famously acquitted all of the officers.
Even though there was a videotape.
On video, really, that was the most stunning thing. It was a stunning defeat, and it sparked riots, the most violent riots of that century. The city was literally burning. I remember I was working downtown, and they were arresting people in droves, and we were doing overtime to process the cases. So in the wake of that, so it was just 2 years later when we were trying the Simpson case.
So it was proof in a lot of people's minds, both black and white, that you couldn't, if black people couldn't get a fair trial, couldn't get a fair shake with the cops.
Exactly.
9 to Y is the source. So as I had stated before in my commentary just a little while ago, that race did play a part in this, as you're hearing it from Marcia Clark 7 years ago and during this interview, that they had many issues with the trust of law enforcement by African-American people that lived in Los Angeles and the greater Los Angeles area. So here you have this mistrust of law enforcement, a black man, famous black man, being accused of murdering 2 white people. One happens to be a woman that he was married to and had children with at the time. Hell no, he could not have done this. As you hear her say, nobody believed OJ did it. People didn't believe he did it, number one. Mistrust of police officers, the judicial system in Los Angeles, that played a part. See, every little thing played a part in the not guilty verdict of O.J. Simpson. Mistrust of law officials, brutalities against African-American people in Los Angeles, greater metro Los Angeles. Famous person, why would he do it? Why are you picking on this black man? Okay, dirty cop. Nasty comments, use the N-word. So that would lead people to think, well, this is how he feels about black people. But as you hear Marcia Clark say, the scene was processed before he allegedly got on to the scene. I don't know how that would be. Cops got there first, I guess. Maybe there were a lot of cops there. She said he wasn't there. Only one glove was left behind. So how would he have been able to take the glove? But then, you know, if a person starts thinking to himself, well, maybe 2 gloves were there. I don't know. And that would be odd, because I would assume a person would take both gloves off at the same time. So now, even going back in hindsight, that still sounds kind of strange. If I'm the suspect, I'm taking off 2 gloves. Wouldn't I take one off and then take the other one off at the same place? Why would I be carrying a bloody glove with me unless I put one of the gloves in my pocket? But that sounds strange. So you're entitled to dissect it as you want. He dropped one place and then dropped the other one, jumping over the wall at his Rockingham address. Still seems weird. Seems like to me I'd have left the gloves at the same place or balled them up and got rid of them both together. That would have made more sense to me. I take both gloves off at the same time, because you can't take one off without taking off the other one. This is weird to me, because now that means what? I'm opening my door with one bloody glove, getting in my car with one bloody glove, and then I decide to take off the other glove when I get to my house and drop it. I don't know. But when you're doing devious things, you're frantic. That's the whole point. If you're not plotting a death, plotting murder, you don't know what you would and would not do, because it's easy to judge. But here was Marcia Clark's giving you the evidentiary material, why she feels like it was hard to try the case. She was told they were not going to win. So that's interesting, that whomever she was consulting with, because they do consult with certain type of firms who will give them information pertaining to the case, the demographics of the people, the community, because a lot of times in high-profile cases, the district attorney will consult with a consulting firm to get information on, you know, what they need to try to do to get a judgment against the perpetrator or the perpetrators. And she was already told, you're not going to win this case, because you already got bad vibes in the city with African-American people and the police department. So you see a lot of things played a role that some people may not have even focused on at that time, that nobody trusted LA police. Rodney King was beat damn near to death, and those cops got off, and you hear her tell you this here in this commentary. And there was no reason for them to beat that man to death. You can see on the video, he's not fighting them. Now you fast forward 30-something years later, police officers are now being tried and convicted for brutality against people, whether they're black, white, whomever. Because there's no need for that. You are supposed to be trained in how to conduct yourself in going on a scene, and you're supposed to know how to assess the situation to detect if you feel like your life is in danger or not. But you just cannot just beat up civilians because you're going there to execute a warrant for drugs or this or that. It doesn't matter, because the worst a man and woman has been apprehended, and they're not beat to death. They're not shot. So that's what played out in Los Angeles. Very brutal time, a lot of crimes, a lot of high crimes, gang crimes back in the 90s. But in the end, the point is you're supposed to be trained on how to conduct yourself and go to a scene and assess the situation. You cannot just beat up civilians. You can't just shoot civilians. And you see now, even today, you still keep seeing civilians being manhandled, strong-armed by white cops, even black cops too, and it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Because as I said, rapists, serial killers, they're apprehended every day, and they're not beat up. They're not strong-armed. They're not shot. And that's what was going on in LA at that time. For those who are maybe younger and they are not familiar with what was going on in the 90s, so just giving you a little backdrop of what it was like in LA. Turbulent times, just with crime and brutality with the Los Angeles Metro Police Department and the Sheriff's Department. It's interesting going back in time, because as they say, hindsight is 20/20, and that is so true. That sometimes you may think about something at that time and you may say, well, I don't think they did it. And then you go forward and you learn a little more about the case and you hear more things. Then you start hearing conversations from different people who may have known the victim, known the suspects, and then your mind changes. And then sometimes you hear evidence, and sometimes evidence isn't revealed during a trial. That's another thing people are starting to learn about the judicial process, that it is dirty, it's wicked. The district attorney will decide who they will allow to testify, what evidence is allowed, and what evidence they also give the defense. Because I was watching this A&E program, Guilty or Innocent, and it shows the district attorney can hold back relevant evidence and not even give it to the defense. Just like this case of this guy shooting his baby's mother. She was always beating him up, jumping on him. She was on drugs, meth. So one day when she was, going off that morning, tripping, he just went over in the corner, got his gun, put it in his pocket. It's on camera in his house. He sits down in the chair. She comes in, wailing on him. He just jumps, like, starts shooting her. Okay? The district attorney didn't want to show that evidence to the defense because they felt like, it was irrelevant. But it is relevant. It is relevant. You don't want to show the evidence of her getting high. That was the evidence they didn't want to show, the district attorney. What does her getting high have to do with anything? Well, that was his defense. I've been dealing with this woman who's been beating me up, always jumping on me, ridiculing me. I've got it on camera. I have it on camera. She was shooting up dope in a room. And that's my defense. I got tired of her. And I wasn't going to put up with her anymore. So on that fateful morning, she's going off. She's been getting high. I shot her. Okay. It saved him. He ended up taking a plea, of course, to do a couple of years. He's still incarcerated right now. I figured he'd be out. He's been in there a couple of years. I think about 5 now. But he went on and took the plea because he said, I'm going to take the plea for manslaughter. He could have went to trial, but I guess he didn't want to risk it. We also found out that the child that he was raising was not his. So here you are dating this meth head, abusive to him, violent. He shoots her. He's indicted, but the district attorney did not want to show the evidence that she had been getting high, shooting up meth, heroin, whatever it was she was on. Just interesting information. So I threw that out there because right now, with the Scott Peterson case, which is out there in California as well, up the coast, of course, a jury member has spoken out saying, I want him to get another trial. Now, a lot of you won't agree with this because a lot of you do believe he killed Lacey and the baby, Connor. But one jury member from the old trial says, what people need to understand is that we judge the case according to the evidence that the district attorney showed us. So Scott Peterson and his attorneys are saying, well, there's other evidence that may link some other people to the crime. Don't know if that's true or not. So this has gone before the Supreme Court. He now will get a chance to try to show if there's evidence to exonerate him. Now, as this juror member is saying, we judge the case according to what the district attorney showed us in court. He says, what if there is evidence to exonerate Mr. Peterson? That's his right to bring that evidence to court. So I think about that pertaining to this case or any other case. That's all you have when you go to court as a jury person. You only have what the defense shows. You only have what the district attorney shows. So if there's evidence out there floating around that they are hiding, covering up, you will never know about it until somebody comes forward and says, oh, by the way, there's evidence of people who called, people who said they saw something, heard something, but the district attorney decided not to, let those people testify. And that's something that people don't ever think about when you hear evidence in a trial. You only assuming that what you're hearing in a trial is the spoken word. That's not true. You're now hearing in all these true crime cases of these documentaries they do, A&E, Oxygen, 2020, Dateline, 48 Hours, there is always somebody who said they called. somebody who saw something, somebody that called in a tip. It's never mentioned during trial. So I want you to always remember that what you see during trial is what has been allowed in by the judge, by the district attorney, and what the defense brought forward. But there are other things that they argue, defense attorneys, it don't always get in. And it could be vital to the livelihood of their client. And I don't think a lot of people think about that. So as I said, this juror from the Scott Peterson trial, he wants Scott to get another trial. I was kind of stunned, even though he voted guilty for him killing Lacey and the baby. He says if there's something missing that district attorney kept out willingly or covered up, or it's new information, he says he has every right to have that information come forward if it can exonerate him. If, of course, he is innocent. And that's the big if. Some people do believe Scott Peterson murdered Lacey Peterson. Some people believe he didn't. Naturally, his family is still riding behind him that he is innocent. But for those of you who are not familiar with this case and the new information, a crime took place in that neighborhood of a robbery. And a van was set on fire and a mattress was in there, and it obviously had blood on the mattress in that van. Scott Peterson's attorneys believe that the suspect or suspects in that crime may be the actual murderers of Lacey Peterson and Connor Peterson, if you did not know that. So that's what's going on right now in the Scott Peterson case. And I just threw that into this information because I don't think people really realize, no matter what you believe about the defendant, the victim, there is always something that is not introduced in trial. And you hear this all the time. The defense will say, well, I want this introduced. And then the judge and the prosecution will say, well, this is not relevant to the case, blah, blah, blah. We're now seeing after the fact, when they do the documentaries, such as like Dateline, Oxygen, they go dig in the belly of the beast and they pull all of that out. And you get to finally hear stuff you never heard before. And as in that case with this young man here, I believe it was Tennessee, who killed the baby's mother, he felt like she was drug-induced. That's why he shot her, to preserve his life, preserve his child's life. And then we also later find out the child's not even his child. So he killed this woman trying to preserve this little boy who's not even his biological kid. It's a wicked story. I think I might do a story on that because I do a crime vault every blue moon of an older case. And that's a case I would like to share with you all here on this network, because I think some of you could be very interested in that case. And you can give me your opinion if you believe he shot her in self-defense or not. But he has videos of showing this woman just, wilding out on him, beating him up, cursing him out, just angry. And that's his defense at the time. She hadn't had her fix. She was angry and she just started wailing on me and I shot her. And he seemed like a nice guy. He didn't seem to be a troublemaker or cause any problems. Didn't have a criminal background. He was just a guy who was tangled up with a woman. He also did have a past history of drugs himself. He had an accident with his foot as a child, I think, and he had a club foot. So he was taking he had taken prescription painkillers for that club foot, and he became addicted to narcotics. She was in the military once. She had some incident where she had to end up getting prescriptions, so that's how she became an addict. So they both had a history with drug use due to medical injuries. And sadly, she stayed on drugs. He got help, became drug-free, and he just wanted to be a father to that young child, but it did not work. And that's the one thing I never could understand about that story. And, like I said, we all make mistakes. He didn't leave her. And that was his mistake, was staying with her. And 2020 hindsight, he was holding on that relationship with this woman for a child that we now know isn't even his kid. because the father came forward when that guy murdered the baby's mother. He obviously went to the authorities to let them know, oh, by the way, that kid, that's my kid. Just a crazy, wicked story right here out of East Tennessee. Matter of fact, it's right up the road. I believe Robertsville was where the crime took place. I'll have to bring you that information. But I threw that in here just to show you that every trial will have information that is not brought out, let's say in the investigation. Tips, eyewitness accounts, they're not always brought out during the trial. So it makes a big difference. So just like with this trial with OJ, you've got testimony from friends of hers who, will give an account of her telling them, that OJ was beating her up and so on and so forth. Evidentiary material, blood spatter, those type of things, evidence of hair found in the cap and all these type of things. You're entitled to believe what you want. But you also have to know there were things, I'm sure, in this trial that weren't admitted into trial, omitted. But I do believe OJ did it. I will say that during this live stream. As I said, I wrangled with the evidence at the time, and I did question the evidence at that time. Even though I was a younger person then, I had told myself when I was hearing of the evidence, this just doesn't make any sense. Why would there be blood at the car in this place, that place, the bloody shoe print? I forgot about that. But I knew there was blood, inside of the Bronco. I never could understand that. The Bronco chase, I couldn't understand. The glove, of course. How did it get way over there on that wall? The thud that Cato said he heard. The blood on the socks. The cut on his finger. Someone later saying they saw him throw something in the garbage can before he went into the airport doors. Just a lot of information to digest. And I never believed the drug dealer theory. I never believed that. And as you heard Marcia Clark say, people rode the ride with the Mark Fuhrman planting the glove because, as I said, once the information got out that he appeared to be a racist, he's on audio calling black people niggers throughout the interview with this lady. That's all it took to taint people's perception of Mark Fuhrman. Whether he was a racist or not, he may not have felt like he was a racist, but once people heard that audio, he was also investigating this crime. It took off. And that's what she was explaining here. A lot of things, cases are interesting because, as I said, what you hear sometimes in trial, as I said, that's not the full story. Because there's a lot that you will never know, such as you didn't know that Marcia Clark and Darden had a brief affair while working on the O.J. Simpson trial. You're not going to hear of all the people who came forward to bring information against O.J. Simpson and the victims. Rumors that the victims had some type of relationship. As I said in my live last night, I find it very interesting that Ron would even be at her home. Why would a waiter be at a patron's house to drop off sunglasses? Not that it has anything to do with the evidence, but see, it's those little things that override a person's sensory to chop up information. And I'm sure the jury members thought that. Why is he there? Not saying he deserves to be killed. Of course not. Of course not. But what is he doing at her house? And let's be truthful. I've never heard, in all the years I have lived, I have never heard of anybody taking sunglasses to a patron's house. What they would do, depending on the business, the manager, their relationship with the patron, if they had their phone number, they could call. Wouldn't that have been sensible? Hey, Miss Simpson, just called to let you know you left your sunglasses here. We'll have them behind the counter with a note. Whoever's working, you let them know that they're in behind the counter and you come pick them up. She may not even realize she left them. Don't know if she called to tell them she left her sunglasses or not. See, I can't remember how that went. So it's been so long ago. So then you ask that question. Did she call the restaurant to say, hey, I left my sunglasses? And then somebody said, oh yeah, they're here. And then maybe somebody told Ron, or he was standing there, hey, she left her sunglasses. And he's like, oh, okay, well, where does she stay? I'll drop them off. See, I don't know how that went. I just know it's strange. But nonetheless, he didn't deserve to die the way he did, nor did Nicole. I don't care how their relationship went. I don't know if they were still seeing each other, having relations with one another. Naturally, OJ had a lot of allegations against Nicole as being, not a good mother, having sex in the house with her children there in an open room. And I don't think OJ lied about that. Now, once again, that's no reason to murder a person. But I don't think he felt like she was fit, because maybe she was seeing different men. Maybe she had different men coming in her house. Maybe she was imbibing in drugs. I don't know. But naturally, those are not reasons to murder a human being because they're getting high on drugs, or I think OJ just had a temper problem. I think he was abusive to her. There are pictures of her, battered, and she accused Mr. Simpson at the time of the battery. I just think he had no impulse control. I think he was, once again, sociopathic, self-absorbed. He felt like he could do no wrong. He probably did feel like nobody would arrest him, put him in jail for battery or any crime. So now we've killed 2 people. I'm O.J. Simpson. Hell no. They ain't going to think I did it. Why would they think that I killed her and her friend when we're not even together? We're divorced. It's a lot of craziness. I think he probably still wanted to be with her, but he wasn't willing to do what it took to keep Nicole, because you can't beat up a person and think they're going to stay married to you or in a relationship with you. That makes no sense. But that's when you're a sociopath, you're sick, you're not thinking like a rational human being. You're already self-absorbed. You got people putting you on a pedestal for being an athlete, famous person, actor, whatever. You are, as my mother would say, smelling your own funk. And my deceased mother would say when I was a child, you're smelling your own funk. And I believe that was OJ. And I believe a lot of people are like him. You see this now with all these allegations of sexual improprieties, abuse, Epstein, Weinstein, R. Kelly, P. Diddy. Control. I've got control of the situation. Nobody's going to point the fingers at me. Nobody's going to believe your allegation that I'm abusive, sex trafficking, whatever the allegations are. And you have people who are not famous. They are the same way. Cocky, arrogant, self-absorbed, narcissist, sociopathic, psychopath. It's all about me. I've got control of the situation. I've been controlling the situation. Nothing you can do, nothing you can say, nothing's going to change, nothing. And this shit goes on for years, the behavior. You hear all these stories, child molestation, rape, assault, abuse, mental abuse. Somebody has to finally bow out. The abuser's not going to bow out. He or she's going to continue the abuse so long as you stay in there. So, like I said, Nicole could have left day one, because I don't know if he was beating her when they were dating. But the point is, day one, she could have left. He could have still done the same thing. He could have hurt her. 1 year in a marriage, 2 years in a marriage, beat up, could have left. Where was she going to hide? She has children with him. He's going to ask for custody or joint custody, however that goes. She couldn't escape him. That's the gist of this story. They were not married when this crime took place. And that's what's very interesting about the deaths of Nicole and Ron. She was not married to O.J. Simpson. So how do you end up slashed up, you and your associate, friend, whomever, and you're not even married to the person who's been arrested for the crime? And you see this in a few cases, probably not a whole lot, but there have been many people who have been indicted for murder and they were divorced from the victim. And you see this with some women who have been accused of murdering the husband, ex-husband, excuse me. And you're questioning, damn, you're not even together. 2 years, 3 years, whatever. Why would you go murder them? You're not with them. Insurance. She thinks she's still on insurance policy. upset that he's moved on, dating somebody else. We learned that with the Betty Broderick story. Very interesting story. I think I would do a crime vault on Betty Broderick. I would love to dissect that with you all one day, because I still owe you a story about the Menendez brothers. I'm almost about 2 weeks behind on the Menendez brothers. I'm going to go ahead and try to knock that out the ballpark tomorrow. We're going to talk about the Menendez brothers and get that story out. Information that the father assaulted one of the Menudo brothers in that boy group. Do you believe that's true? Because if we believe that, then we could possibly believe he did molest his own boy children. But was that the motive that the boys murdered their parents? So we'll talk about that at a later date. But there are no guarantees when it comes to true crime. You have to be in the mind of the perpetrator. You have to be in the mind of the victim to understand the dynamics between the people. And as I said before, Nicole could have left him early on when the abuse started. But there's no guarantee that it would not have still ended up in homicide. May have been just a singular homicide, scratch Ronald Goldman. But I don't know. And then we learned that he still was abusing women after the fact, after the not guilty verdict, which shows he is a violent person, O.J. Simpson. So then you have to go back into the life of O.J. as a child. How was he raised? Single mother, father, what? Father in and out, what? Was the mother ever abused by a man or father? Did he know his father? You know, all those dynamics you have to ask yourself. I did have some information on OJ, but for some reason I can't pull it up. It's just weird. Hello, everybody. Hold on one second. So I had a good article here, but it won't let me. Pull up that information for some crazy reason. Some of you might want to check out that book, If I Did It, Confessions of the Killer. It's very, I don't know why anybody would want to write a book like that. As I said, to me, you're incriminating yourself by even wanting to do that. But once again, Mr. Simpson died April 10th of this week, and he was born July 9th, 1947. So he would be turning 77 in July 9th. What a movie I watched about his life. Don't know if it's true. You know, everything's a dramatization. The Murder of Nicole Brown Simpson was released in 2019. Feel free to go in the Roku app to watch it. I think you watch it on Roku or Tubi. It's either on Tubi, Freebie, or Roku. The Murder of Nicole Brown Simpson. That was a pretty good movie. I watched it about a year ago. Very, very, very interesting movie. Gives you a different perspective of the painter guy. I don't know if that was even the truth or not. If this other guy, some people believe this guy who was painting her house was behind the crime. But he was also involved in another murder, but I don't think it was him. I don't think he killed Nicole. I think it was O.J. Simpson. He was surrounded by his children and grandchildren. The statement continued. During this time of transition, his family asked that you please respect their wishes for privacy and grace. O.J. Simpson dead at 76 years of age. It says Lifetime to air documentary on Nicole Brown Simpson, O.J. Simpson's ex-wife. This is uploaded 19 hours ago. So Lifetime is doing a documentary on Nicole Brown Simpson. So when I get an update pertaining to that information, I will put it on my community page so you all can check it out. Also, 4 hours uploaded ago, everyone who visited O.J. Simpson before death forced to sign a NDA. Wow, what's that all about? Very interesting. And as I said, Fred Goldman has spoken about the death of O.J. and basically he's saying what's important are the victims, you know, not O.J. Simpson. Naturally, he would. Trying to find this content. Yeah, that's what I asked everybody in the chat earlier. Where were you when the verdict was read? As I told you, I was working for a Korean or Asian restaurant at the time, and me and the owner, we were glued. She and I were glued to the TV while I was working the drive-through. I was waiting on the verdict. We were ecstatic when he was found not guilty. I will admit that. But as I said, as time went by, you know, and I reassessed the case, I told myself, O.J. did that. He committed those crimes. I'm trying to find this bio on him. I can't seem to find it for some reason. Let's see what New York Times has to say. Then I'll check out of here. I'm already over 2 hours. Thank you all so much for joining me. Hello, everybody. A Heisman Trophy winner when he played football at the University of Southern California. He reached superstar status as a running back with the Buffalo Bills. As a commercial pitchman and a Hollywood actor, he became a household name across much of America. But fame turned into infamy when he was charged in the 1994 double murder of his former wife and her friend. He was acquitted after the trial that riveted the nation. Here is a look at a man who never seemed to stop making news for good and ill. 1968 Heisman Trophy winner. Mr. Simpson was born in San Francisco in 1947, first came to the attention of many Americans as a football star at the University of Southern California. In his 2 years playing for the Trojans, he was the gang's best running back and tallied 33 touchdowns. So he's born in San Francisco. As a junior in 1967, he was the runner-up for the Heisman Trophy. As the college game's best player, then won the award in 1968, his second and final year at USC. Wow. So he only played 2 years. Very interesting. Professional stardom. Mr. Simpson was drafted first overall by the Buffalo Bills in 1969, and by his fourth season, he was a superstar. In 1973, he ran for 2,003 yards, which stood as a record for more than a decade and won the NFL's Most Valuable Player award. He was in the top 5 MVP, voting 3 other times as well as MVP. He became known as the Juice, and his talent and likability propelled him to even greater notoriety. His on-field accomplishments and fame were all the more impressive given that he seldom played for good teams. His only playoff game, a loss, came in 1974. Very interesting. No playoff team. He retired in 1979 after playing his final 2 seasons for the San Francisco 49ers. 1975, pitchman. Even those who knew little about the football got to know the juice as he began appearing in television advertisements, notably a series of ads for Hertz starting in 1975, in which he dashed through airports on his way to get his rental car. Nobody has more of what it takes to rent you a Fairmont, Mustang, LTD, or other fine car faster, he said in one ad. Wow. Now, inside this article, it gives you just a bio of little things about Mr. Simpson, his acting career, synonymous with the sensational murder trial that riveted the nation in the mid-1990s. He was a football star turned Hollywood fixture who played roles as varied as astronaut, a comic detective, and a fake priest. From the car chase to the verdict, the murder case became the inextricable part of Los Angeles history in the 1990s, and Angelenos to this day still ponder what happened. Simpson tried to shed the blackness a writer muses, but his all-consuming murder trial put the historically lurid American psyche on full display. Long before the Kardashians became a star attraction in reality television, the family name first came to prominence when Simpson was on trial, because Mr. Kardashian was one of his attorneys. He also tried his hand at announcing, including a stretch from 1983 to 85 on Monday Night Football. Hollywood Calls. Mr. Simpson began appearing in television and movie roles even as his football career continued, including some big-budget projects like The Towering Inferno in 1974, in which he played the building's chief of security, and the blockbuster miniseries Roots in 1977. Man, I didn't remember he was in that. His biggest success, though, came in the 3 Naked Gun films, in which he played Detective Nordberg. In a running series of gags, Nordberg was continuously injured, often in scenes played for broad laughs. In one particularly memorable scene at the end of the first film, Nordberg is seen flying down stadium steps in a wheelchair before being catapulted off a ledge and flipping into the air. Divorce and reports of abuse. The prosecution of Mr. Simpson's murder trial said he abused his second wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, whom he married in 1985, throughout their relationship. The abuse left Mr. Simpson bruised and terrified, but the abuse left Miss Simpson, bruised and terrified, but the police rarely took substantive action. After one call to the authorities on New Year's Day in 1989, officers found her badly beaten and half naked, hiding in the bushes outside their home. "He's going to kill me," she sobbed. Mr. Simpson pleaded no contest to a charge of spousal abuse. He was sentenced to probation and community service and was ordered to pay a fine. The confrontations continued after the couple's divorce in 1992. On October 25, 1993, Ms. Simpson called the police again. "He's back," she told 911 operator, and officers once more intervened. Very interesting. So this is the October before 93. So then you go into the new year, 94, and then that infamous summer of 94 when she was butchered to death by Mr. Simpson. Some who believe he didn't do it, but Ronald Goldman, Nicole Simpson are murdered, 1994. Ms. Simpson and her friend Ronald L. Goldman were stabbed to death at her home in Los Angeles, June 12, 1994. And I remember that like it was yesterday, too. It was a lot of media attention pertaining to the deaths of these two. Mr. Simpson was questioned and charged with murder, but he did not turn himself in initially. Instead, 5 days after the killings, he led the police on a bizarre, hours-long, low-speed chase in a white 1993 Ford Bronco, driven by his friend and former teammate, Al Cowlitz. The chase was shown live on nearly every television network, even preempting the NBA Finals. Trial of the century. Mr. Simpson's trial lasted for 9 months and gripped the nation for all that time. Yes, I thought the trial lasted for almost a year. Earlier when I played commentary, when I was speaking to Mr. Goldman, they were saying for weeks when you were going to the trial, maybe he didn't go until like right near the ending or so. I'm not really sure. But it was weird when they said you were there for weeks. And I thought, well, I thought the trial lasted for almost a year. So yes, here it says, the trial lasted for 9 months. Gripped the nation for all that time. Multiple television networks broadcast the trial every day, and minor figures like Caitlyn, who was staying in Mr. Simpson's guest house at the time of the killings, became celebrities. And people also questioned him, I'm sure. Why did he stay around, hang around? Why did he have anything negative to say about OJ afterwards? As I said to a commenter last night, think about what you're saying. Why would Caitlyn say something bad to OJ Simpson in his own house? And he just butchered 2 people, if you were to believe that. Whether Cato believed it or not, I don't know. Did he think that he killed them? At what point did Cato believe that OJ murdered these 2 people? But think about hindsight 2020. The person whose house I'm living in is being questioned for murder. Am I going to go to this person and say, did you kill them? Oh, I think you killed them. Why'd you do that? Hey, that thud I heard the other night. What's that all about? So did Caitlyn say something to O.J. Simpson? Only a fool would have. In one of the most riveting moments, Mr. Simpson was asked to try on bloody gloves found at the crime scene. Mr. Simpson claimed the gloves were too tight. Naturally, they would be tight because they were saturated with blood and they were dried. So naturally, leather is going to shrink depending on if they were thin, if they were thick. And of course, they wouldn't fit like a natural glove because they're not in their natural state. I'm just throwing that in there. Okay. Mr. Simpson claimed the gloves were too tight. His lawyer, Johnny L. Cochran, Jr., God rest his soul, alluded to this in his closing argument, saying, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit it. And I must admit, when I watched it the other day, Johnny Cochran has a toboggan on his head, and I'm just looking like, what in the hell? Everybody was theatrical. Marcia Clark, Mr. Darden, and the Dream Team were very, very over the top during the trial. The verdict, despite significant DNA and other evidence, was not guilty on both counts. The result divided Americans. A majority felt it was a miscarriage of justice and continued to assume that Mr. Simpson was guilty, while some, including many Black Americans, believed the verdict to be justified. Also, you heard earlier in this commentary that I've read to you that O.J. Simpson didn't identify with being Black. Maybe he didn't. But as I told you earlier in this live stream, please go back to the beginning of this live, I believe O.J. probably had identity issues with being a poor Black man, going off to college, didn't like his past, didn't like where he came from. And a lot of people are like this. They don't like the fact of who they are, where they came from. Poor parents, illiterate parents, raised in Appalachia or the projects or low-income housing. But as I said it before in my live stream last night where I was in the dark, because the power was out last night, but I wanted to go live anyway to talk about OJ. It's not your fault where you come from. It's not your fault who made you. You don't choose your race, your background, your weight, your size, your parents, your brothers, your sister. That has nothing to do with you. This is why children have so many problems, because they don't like where they come from, So they make up a fictitious, sometimes, way of living and ideology about themselves. Maybe that's what was going on with OJ. He couldn't identify with being a poor Black kid from the ghetto, inner city, and he just couldn't accept that. So once he saw his talent, that was his identity. I'm OJ the athlete, not Orenthal from the hood. And I think that may have been his downfall down the road. Civil judgment, 1997. After the acquittal, the parents of Ms. Simpson and Mr. Goldman filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Mr. Simpson. The jury found Mr. Simpson liable and ordered him to pay more than $30 million. But Mr. Simpson said that his no longer having acting and endorsement work meant he was broke. The families ultimately received only a small fraction of the judgment. So is that judgment still on file to receive monies? I don't know. Theft charges, 2008. Theft charges in prison. Mr. Simpson and several other men entered a hotel room in Las Vegas in 2007. Mr. Simpson claimed they were seeking sports memorabilia that had been stolen from him. A gun was brandished. Mr. Simpson was arrested and in 2008 was found guilty of armed robbery and kidnapping. He was released on parole in 2017 after serving 9 years of a 33-year sentence. That's a long time. 9 years and 33, that's a lifetime. He would still be locked up had he served the whole 33 or part of the 33. Lord have mercy. Also in this article, they show you a picture of him at a Buffalo Bills game in 2021. Did he know he had cancer at that time, 2021? Upon his release from prison in 2017, Mr. Simpson settled in Florida and led what was for him a relatively low-key life. He played a lot of golf and posted videos regularly on Twitter, generally opening with, "It's me, yours truly," offering thoughts on professional sports and frequently urging his 800,000 followers to get vaccinated against coronavirus. It's a lot of people, 800,000. In his final post on February 11th, Mr. Simpson, as usual, looking relaxed, spoke optimistically about his health and incorrectly predicted that the 49ers would win the Super Bowl. A correction was made in this article on today. It says an earlier version of a picture captioned with this article referring incorrectly to a glove that was an important piece of evidence in Mr. Simpson's murder trial. It was not a golf glove. Okay. New York Times is the source. Let's go to the belly of the beast to go back in time with Marguerite. What happened in that relationship? Because I'm trying to understand how it came to be. He once started dating white women, married a white woman, and then started abusing her. Because there's something off with this O.J. Simpson, his life. Black man, black woman, black children. Later goes on to marry a white woman and starts beating her. Accused of murdering her and her friend, found not guilty, still continues to date white women, and then still beating white women. It's very weird to me. Very, very weird to me. I don't understand any of this. Today.com is the source, uploaded 4 hours ago, pertaining to the ex-wives of O.J. Simpson. Thank you very much. Nicole Brown Simpson became a household name after her ex-husband, O.J. Simpson, was accused of murdering her. After a lengthy trial, he was acquitted of all charges. 30 years after her death, O.J. Simpson has now died of cancer at the age 76. They were married for 7 years, and before that, Simpson was married to his first wife, Marguerite Whitley, for over a decade. Let's take a look back at his life with Marguerite, everybody. The couple was married between 1967 and 1979. Let's take a picture. Take a look at them. OJ and Marguerite. You don't have to care, Virgil. Hold on, everybody. Friday night. Go catch a movie, honey. During their marriage, the couple welcomed 3 children, 1 son, Jason, 2 daughters, Arnell and Aaron. In 1979, Aaron, who was 23 months old at the time, drowned in a family swimming pool, according to the Los Angeles Times. Some of you may not have known that. I didn't remember that. Where is Marguerite Whitley now? Not much is known about Whitley or her current whereabouts. However, the New York Times shed light on her tumultuous relationship with Simpson in a 1994 article, noting that the couple temporarily separated on several occasions starting in 1970, okay? Harry F. Fain, a divorce lawyer for Whitley, told the Times that Simpson's fame put a strain on their marriage. She lent an element of stability to him. Mother, homemaker, things like that, he said. Then he becomes a celebrity and the marriage begins to fail. Wow. Brown Simpson was Simpson's second wife. She was born in Frankfurt, Germany in 1959 and later moved to California with her family. So, was there any abuse between Marguerite and OJ? It doesn't say here that any abuse, but I guess when he became famous, things took a toll. So did he cheat on her or not? Was he faithful to Marguerite? Was he a good father to his children? Any mental, physical abuse? I don't hear physical abuse, so maybe it's just he became famous and he became distant or became more self-absorbed or self-absorbed. Don't really know. And where is she? For them to say they don't know where she is very strange. Maybe she changed her name. I don't know. While working at a Beverly Hills nightclub, Brown Simpson met her future husband, who was married to Whitley. She was 18 at the time and he was 30. So now we have more information, fast forward, because it's been a while since I did any, reading up on OJ. It's been 30 so years ago. So that means he was married to Marguerite when he met Nicole. So that puts a whole new spin on everything. Was she the reason he divorced? This source here, don't know if it's true because we're not hearing from Marguerite. Oh, well, he became famous. They started having problems. Okay. A whole woman could cause a lot of problems, but they're dating back to the 70s. They were having problems. Nicole wasn't around then. So you got to remember he was doing TV also in 75. So maybe him becoming more famous, everybody's knowing who he is. He started to get the big head. Don't know what was actually going on with them behind closed doors. As I said, was he faithful to Marguerite? Was he a good father? Was he attentive to his children? Did he spend time with his children? A lot of things you can ask before Nicole came in the picture. But we now learn he was married at the time to Marguerite when he met an 18-year-old Nicole, which that is not good. Brown Simpson's older sister, Denise, described Brown Simpson's initial impression of Simpson during an interview with the New York Times in 1994. I was living in New York and modeling when she told me about him, she said. I said, "Oh, who's that?" She said, "Oh, he's a football player." She just loved OJ. She didn't care if he was a football player or a dirt digger. They were really great for each other. So what happened with them? Makes no sense. Let's take a look at OJ Simpson and Nicole in alleged happier times. Thank you for joining me. All right, everybody. The couple tied the knot in 85. Ms. Simpson filed for divorce from OJ in 92. In 1994 interview with the New York Times, Denise Brown recalled Brown Simpson and her family going out to dinner to celebrate her new chapter hours before she was killed. Now remember, this is allegedly a recital of one of the girl child, and they all met up for dinner afterwards. OJ sat at another part of the recital. Seemed like he was angry, upset. Don't know if that was true or not because he didn't get to sit with the family. Maybe, she didn't want them to sit with the family because they're not together anymore. Why sit with us? And maybe they still were going back and forth arguing or had some bad blood. And I think they did. So naturally, she wouldn't want him to sit with the family. And I think that may have set him off, OJ Simpson, to this brutal killings. But that's what's been documented or alleged. She was so vivacious, so full of life, Denise Brown told the outlet. She had just gotten it all together, and it was so exciting. I was so happy for her. So at the time of this dinner that took place before her murder, was she dating somebody else? Who was she dating? Was she really happy? Just curious. During their marriage, Brown, Simpson, and Simpson had 2 children, a daughter named Sydney and a son named Justin. While speaking with People in 2019, Brown Simpson's sister Tanya Brown described how important motherhood was to her. Nicole was a mom first and foremost. Her kids were her life. She always wanted to make sure they were having fun and being kids, she said. That's all I have on that by today. So he met Nicole while still married to Marguerite. That's very, very interesting. As I said, I have not done research on this case since I was a younger person. They also had a child, he and Marguerite. They had 3 children, and one child, she died at 23 months old in a family swimming pool. Oh, that's horrible. Lifetime is going to do a docuseries on Nicole Brown Simpson. When I get an update, I will let you all know the airing of that. I'll post it to my community board. This is almost a 3-hour live. Thank you so much for following this network and listening to this content. I did a live last night when the power blew. I was about to go live, and then the nearby circuit boxes blew. I don't know what happened, but I wanted to, start my commentary off because, that was the day we got the news that O.J. Simpson had perished from prostate cancer. And once again, my condolences to the family, condolences to the Goldmans and the Browns for the deaths of their loved ones. And I'm just bringing you a little bit of information pertaining to O.J. Simpson, his life with Marguerite and his children, his career in acting and also pro football. Received the Heisman Trophy in 1968. Everyone has their own opinion of O.J. Simpson. Some people don't know about O.J. Simpson because, a lot of people are younger, millennials, they wouldn't know who O.J. Simpson was at the time. And some people may have felt, even back in those days, when all this debacle came about the deaths of Ron and Nicole, that he didn't identify as a Black man. And as I told you, that probably has a lot to do with his upbringing and whatever he was going through as a young person, because it's the little things and the big things that form us to be who we are. So when you go look back in hindsight, I'm sure there are a lot of things about him that led him to be who he became, which was an abuser. I don't know if he used drugs, or if he was a heavy drinker or alcoholic. I've never heard that mentioned about O.J. Simpson, but he was not a nice guy. And as I said, I do not know if he abused Marguerite, because usually abuse, there's a pattern. So if we don't have any information that he abused his first wife, you're going to wonder, well, then what would lead him to abuse Nicole? And then we learn after the trial, once he was freed, he had allegations of abuse with other women, or one woman or so. So you have to wonder, like, how did this man become an abuser? And then we also know that a person can beat a person up, but not be a murderer. But they do go hand in hand, because common sense would tell you, you keep battering a person, where can it go? You keep beating them, you should know that if you keep beating them, you're a man, your hands are heavier, you could cause death, okay? You could beat them to death. And you can't say later, oh, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't know my hands were that heavy. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. So it's a brutal story. As you hear the sister in the commentary, she loved him, Nicole. He loved her, but what happened? I also believe he was sleeping around with other women in his marriage to Nicole. So she wasn't the only one. So then we have to go back in time with Marguerite. Was he cheating on her? Because he met Nicole while still married to Marguerite. Don't know if that was the cause of the divorce. Who divorced whom? Just a lot you can dissect. Will Marguerite speak on the death of her ex-husband, O.J. Simpson? I don't know. Where is Marguerite? How is she doing? How are his children doing? Do all the children get along? We will now see what will happen financially, because when people die, this is when you start hearing of finances, what the person was worth. Anybody else want to come out with a lawsuit? Because that always happens. Will the children be divided on any monies owed to him, or judgments against Mr. OJ from the Goldmans and the Browns? How will that work out? Will they still try to get money from his estate? See, a lot of questions. because we learn when people die, there's always a fallout with their finances. We've learned that with Michael Jackson, a lot of famous people who have died. There's still wranglings right now with Katherine Jackson and the estate and the children pertaining to the selling of Michael Jackson's music. And that's a travesty in itself, because once you sell off the music, it's gone. Now somebody owns the rights to everything made, any playing of his music, so on and so forth. Just a lot comes with death. And a lot of people don't really think about that, but you get the worst of people when people pass away. So right now the children may get along, I don't know. But if money is still owed, judgment's still owed against O.J. Simpson, that will go against his estate now that he's passed away. You have to wonder if all the children get along, who's going to be the executor of his estate? Did he leave someone as an executor? So many questions. Did he leave any of the children, the oldest son or oldest daughter, Arnell, over his estate? Did he leave a will? Lots of questions. Did O.J. Simpson leave a will? Who's the executor of the will? What did he give each child? Probably didn't have a whole lot, you know, considering being incarcerated for almost 10 years. I don't know what the children would have been doing while he was incarcerated with his estate and his name, if they were generating any money on his name so he could have something when he got out of prison. And by the grace of God, he was able to get out because the parole board did not have to grant him parole, but they did. A lot of questions, but thank you so much for following me and listening to this content. God bless all of you. Have a wonderful weekend. I watched a very interesting movie on Tubi last night. It's called Bloodlines. Matter of fact, I finished two. One was about a doctor poisoning his wife. And another one was about a woman who witnessed the murder of her mother when she was a small child. And she later recognized him in a hospital. He was an oncologist. And I will post those to my community board for you all to watch if you like British movies and mysteries. You're welcome. You all know I love the Brits. So I finished those two late this morning. That's why I'm looking half asleep and half awake during this live stream. I tried to perk myself up the best way I could for this live stream, but I wanted to bring you this OJ content. The next live stream will be tomorrow. And I promised you all I was going to talk about the Menendez brothers. We're going to take a dive into their life, allegations made against their late father, and also Kitty. There are allegations from one of the boys that the mother was provocative and sexual toward one of the sons. I believe it was Lau. He's the oldest boy, oldest child. So we're going to top up those allegations against the parents. Did the father molest the boy children? Did Kitty make any passes or overt sexual advances toward Lau or the boy child, the younger boy child? Did the father abuse one of the Menudo brothers, the boy band? One of the brothers has come forward to say the father touched him inappropriately. Is that true? Because if that's true, and somebody else can verify and say, yes, he told me this as a child, adult, whatever, do you believe it? What's the truth? I will put a poll up about that as well. And if I can come up with any other type of question on a poll about O.J. Simpson, I'll post it tonight after I upload this content. But it's a lot to dissect with the Menendez, because there have been so many movies, documentaries made about them. And I will try to find a short piece to play during the live stream tomorrow, and we can chop it up. The allegations against the father, the mother, the motive for murder. Was it just to get their money, or was it a combination of greed and tired of being under their thumb, tired of dealing with the parents? But some are going to say, whether the allegations are true or not, you all were grown and you could have moved on. And that's what's baffling about that case, if you want to believe the motive was sexual in nature. You are adults. You didn't have to live with your parents. The younger brother especially. You know, many were saying the father wanted him to stay close to home so he could allegedly still abuse the boy. But you knew what you knew. I don't know what's true. So why stay? You got accepted to college. You could have went to college, worked like other students, found you a dorm or apartment, and cut ties with your family. Lau was already living in New York, so that didn't make any sense. Make it make sense. One son's already across the country doing his own thing. The younger child has been accepted to a university. Why stay in the house? You knew what was happening to you. If it's true, then you should have left that house. That's my take on it. And the other brother, the oldest one, Lau, you should have stayed in New York, did your own thing. You all should have did your separate thing, cut ties with your family. If the allegations were true, you didn't have to murder them. I don't know. Maybe it was greed. As I said, it could be a combination of both. I'm not sure because I don't know if the father abused the children or not. I don't know, the boy children. But that's my commentary. Like, share, subscribe. Drop your comments below this video. Take the polls on my community page. Feel free to comment on those said videos, updates. And also, at the beginning of this live, I gave you an update pertaining to DENISHKA, MEIJA, Melina. She was murdered in a home here in Knoxville, Tennessee, in South Knoxville. The suspects have been arrested. It's 4 suspects. Mr. Osborne was also linked to a murder in July of 2022, a Jafesha Mitchell, and he was never arrested for that crime. Fast forward now, 2 years later, almost 2 years later, he's been arrested in the murder and rape of DENISHKA MEIJA, 22 years of age. Funeral services have not been made for her, but they did a celebration of life this week, the past week, pertaining to her death. Balloon release for her, celebration of life. I did not hear that she had any children, but anywho, she was the girl child, the only child of her parents, and this is terrible information. So 4 suspects have been arrested in the murder of DENISHKA MEIJA. Mr. Osborne is also been arrested for her rape. She filed a report against him the day before, and the next day she's found dead in a home. They will not relieve the matter of death. Very suspicious to why not. They say she was not shot. 2 other people in that house were shot, a guy and a girl, 23, and also Mr. Osborne was shot. Who shot whom? Did he and these goons go over there to torture her, shoot these other people? There was a shootout. What happened? Because all this is strange information. His mother was also arrested. Miss Angela Greenberg, I believe. She was arrested for tampering with evidence after the fact. Who will flip on whom? 4 suspects. First-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, kidnapping, burglary. Did all men go over to this house where DENISHKA was staying and break in, hold the people hostage in the house? And how did she die, DENISHKA? Because she was not shot, but they will not reveal her manner of death. What happened in that house on Gilbert Lane? The assault took place on Walker Street, West Knoxville. Whose house was that? Apartment, duplex, what was it? Was there an eyewitness to the rape on Walker Street? And once again, whose home was on Walker Street? How did she get there? Did she drive? Did he take her there? They met up? What? Very odd behavior. Eyewitnesses to the crime on Gilbert Lane. Doorbell cameras, CCTV footage, neighbors hearing you screaming, gunshots, hearing the altercations outside of the house, inside of the house. What are we going to hear? I'll bring you all that said information. Once again, prayers to DENISHKA's MEIJA's family. Woo! A lot of information. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $BeGanji, 129 Cash App. Stickers and chats are always welcome during the live stream. Thank you so much. Almost 3 hours. Golly. A lot of information. I'll bring you more information pertaining to O.J. Simpson when I get it. Any information pertaining to the suspects in this crime against DENISHKA, MEIJA. And when they decide to have funeral services for her, I will also bring you an update to that as well. Any information posted will be on my community page. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend. Join me tomorrow to talk about the Menendez brothers and the allegations by one of the Menudo brothers against their late father. You've been listening to the Vault Excel. Thank you.